Their 14-year wait to reach a Champions League final against FC Porto, thanks to David Raya's heroics in that penalty shootout at the Emirates. And now they've got a considerable break before what many are labelling their biggest Premier League game in 2 decades against Manchester City, March the 31st at the Etihad, as they go hell for leather to secure their first Premier League title in 20 years. I am joined by Sunsport football correspondent Tom Barkley to have a look in a bit more detail, Tom, at Arsenal's run in between now and the end of the season. Obviously, joyous scenes at the Emirates when they got past Porto, and then this game against Man City's next international break in between, obviously. But March the 31st at the Etihad, the biggest game in 20 years in the Premier League for Arsenal. True or false?
I think true. It's got to be up there. They definitely look like they're in amongst it with City and Liverpool. They've been fantastic, particularly in this recent few months. They had that little wobble sort of around the Christmas period, and you sort of thought, the wheels coming off, as they sort of did last season towards the back end of the season. But they had a break, they went to Dubai, they've collected their thoughts, they've thought everything through, and suddenly they're looking like they're really firing on all cylinders. And now going into the City game, they've got another break. They're not going to go away or anything, because obviously the international break's coming up where most of the players will be off doing their thing, but it gives them, and Mikel Arteta in particular, a bit more time to sort of plot and plan ahead of what is going to be one of the most tasty games of the season.
Absolutely. We'll look at Arsenal's run-in a bit more detail in a little while, particularly some of those key away games that they've got against big-time, old-school rivals who will be desperate to do anything they can to stop Arsenal from winning the league. But just to have a look at the Champions League, first of all, obviously a great story, wonderful scenes at the Emirates, a bit nervy, but David Raya coming up clutch for them when it mattered in the penalty shootout. But what do you feel that with that, you know, Arsenal out the FA Cup, out the League Cup as well, do you feel that it may have actually been a blessing in disguise if they'd gone out, because they would have been fully focused on the Premier League, with Liverpool and City both still in Europe as well, and the FA Cup? Do you feel like that might have actually weirdly helped them?
I see what you say, that just from a purely fixture congestion point of view, but I disagree. Having watched the game last night, there was a nervousness going to that extra time and then obviously into penalties. And to get through that moment, win that penalty shootout against a really stubborn Porto team who were not easy to knock over, clearly from the 2 legs, I think will go a long, long way to building confidence and giving a load of self-belief into the last day for the first time in 14 years. Just another sort of goal ticked off pretty much in this Mikel Arteta revolution that's been happening ever since he took over, to be honest. And I expect, particularly with the squad sort of coming back together now in terms of players coming to full fitness and all the options he's got, that will only kick him on further. Yeah,
sort of that winning mentality once that gets in your bones, which it hasn't been at Arsenal for quite a long time before Arteta, certainly not to the levels we're seeing at the moment. So look, I mean, Tom, there's a few different factors to consider as far as the Premier League run-in goes. All the teams, 10 games left, of course. Arsenal, City and Liverpool have each got 6 games to play against teams in the top half of the Premier League. 5 of those 6 for Arsenal are away from home, just 3 of those for Liverpool and just 2 for Manchester City. There's the injuries, which we'll look at in a minute as well, and some of those key opponents. Arsenal still got Tottenham, Manchester United and Chelsea to play, all before the season finishes. What one do you want to look at first? What do you think is going to play the biggest factor? And we'll dive into that in a bit of detail.
Well, let's come on to the run-in towards the end. I do think that is probably one of the biggest obstacles that Arsenal are facing. I think they do have the toughest run-in. But from a more positive point of view, as I alluded to a minute ago, with all the players coming back to full fitness, Arteta's now got so many options, you know, particularly at the back. Tomiyasu coming back now and looks like he's going to sign a new contract soon. That's a big boost. He's such a versatile player and a really well-liked player in the dressing room. Zinchenko came off the bench last night, but to be honest, would you even start at the moment? Because Jakub Kiwior is slotted in at left back, despite being more of a centre back. In fact,
Ben White syndrome.
Ben White, yeah, but also Ben White. I mean, he was the one who set up the 2 goals against Brentford. He suddenly got a great delivery on him. They've gone for a bit more of a Pep Guardiola sort of approach with 4 centre-backs playing at the back, but they're looking really, really solid. And when Zinchenko came on in extra time against Porto, he played in more of a sort of midfield role because they were trying to push for that winner, which we know he can do. He can play that sort of inverted role, and he's got that ability. He plays midfield often for Ukraine anyway. But what I like about the Arsenal squad at the moment is, as I said, so many different ways to skin a cat for Arteta at the moment. Whatever the game is needing, he can sort of look to his bench and try and change it a different way. And I think one player we shouldn't overlook is Jorginho. He's someone who's been there and done it. When he signed last January, along with Leandro Trossard, which at the time, you might remember, people were saying that Arsenal maybe had not scrimped, but Mudryk was the one, their main target. Chelsea went and signed him
for 88 million.
Exactly. I mean, understandable, particularly when you look on how he's played, since, although he's had a bit of an upturn of late. And they were talking about Declan Rice at the time, who they eventually did get, and he is the big factor, let's be honest, behind this. But Jorginho, whilst he hasn't been a sort of superstar signing, I think he started the last 3 games, he's brought in that sort of nous, that experience. Martin Odegaard's the captain, but Jorginho is almost like the unofficial one who's been sort of organising, and it's a young team.
Vast experience of winning as well.
Absolutely, and you forget how young this team is. I mean, Bukayo Saka's been doing it for so long that he is a senior pro, but that doesn't discount his actual age, which is relatively young. But Jorginho at 32 is a veteran, relative veteran in this team, and I think that's helped the team as well. And he's someone that Arteta, obviously a former midfielder himself, can sort of look to as someone who can help organise his team. And it sounds like he's been brought in, particularly at the moment, into these games as a way of trying to navigate Arsenal through this sort of pressure point of the season. The only caveat I would say to all that is, yes, we are at a pressure point, but we're not at the pressure point of the season yet. This is where it all kind of went wrong last season. If anything, at this point in the season last year, they actually were 2 points better off than they were having played a game fewer. So we know how well they did. And then the collapse happened. So what we want to see...
That's when the bottle job tag got attributed to them, didn't it? Or it started from that point.
And you can see why. But what we need to see from here is a newfound resilience, which Jorginho might help to bring. Declan Rice definitely seems like he's bringing that as well, to get Arsenal to be able to sustain it across the whole season.
This is the crunch point, isn't it? Because like you say, up until now, on paper, they've done, if anything, a smidgen worse than they did last year. But this is when the mentality of the whole thing kicks in, isn't it? And it's one of those things. What do you expect Arsenal players and Arteta to say, other than, we need to learn from last season? You can say that all you like, can't you? But this is crunch time, particularly now they're only in 2 competitions. And these are the games and the moments and the times that matter. But you mentioned that run-in. Just for anyone wondering, it's Manchester City away, the big game that we've spoken about already. Luton at home, Brighton away, Villa at home, Wolves away, Spurs away, Bournemouth at home, Man United away, Everton at home, and then Chelsea at home. Those 2 there that I've mentioned, Spurs and Manchester United, they're going to be cauldrons of noise filled with fans who are going to want anything other than Arsenal to win the title. Bit of a difficult one for Manchester United fans, I suppose, because picking between Liverpool, Arsenal and City, not their ideal. But do you sort of sense anything other than those games there that are going to be the main sticking points, or what do you see as worries for Arsenal, given that they've got at least 2 more Champions League games coming up?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at that fixture list, I mean, Aston Villa have had a fantastic season. Brighton, you never know what you're going to get from them. They've had good results against Arsenal in the past. Wolves have been able to turn over a lot of different teams this season. So, as is the Premier League these days, every game is cliche, but every game is difficult. But yeah, you're totally right. I mean, Tottenham away, Spurs obviously a team that I cover on a regular basis. When they're firing like they were against Aston Villa with that 4-0 victory, they can beat anyone. They really can. And remember, Tottenham didn't lose at the Emirates earlier this season. That was very early on in the Ange Postecoglou era. He's had more time to sort of implement his methods. Spurs themselves having had their own injury problems this season, are starting to get all their sort of full complement of players together. So that one is going to be very tough. Man United, with the way they sort of play a counter-attacking style, in the past at Old Trafford have had some success against this Arsenal team. But if you're going to go and win the league, you've got to go and win these games. I mean, really for me, and we don't want to sort of call it after the next game, but Man City away, when you look at City's running, which I think you can explain a little bit more in detail, it is a lot more favourable than Arsenal. And if they can go and beat Arsenal at home in the next game, it already looks like a difficult sort of amount of points to sort of overturn, given what's going to come afterwards for City and the fact that they've got the experience of being there and doing it before.
Do you sort of feel like you said already, that this game for Arsenal at the Etihad is really do or die for them and could genuinely put them in a position? Do you think if they do win, or even if they get a draw at City, right, that will still keep them 1 point above them if they draw, 4, if they get the win? Do you think if they do manage to win or even get a draw, do you think it's theirs to lose then, or can you still see them dropping enough points for City to regain the ground on them?
Kind of both, really. It is theirs to lose if they go and pull off an amazing result like that. I mean, we talked about what the Porto victory can do for their confidence. I mean, imagine going to win at the Etihad, what that can do. Arteta against his former mentor, Pep Guardiola. I mean, that would just be an incredible thing to happen at this stage of the season. One thing doing it in September, but to do it at this when we're sort of not quite in the final furlong, but we're rounding around the corner, to add a bit of Cheltenham sort of analogy into it. They're not far away. That would be really huge. And 4 points is not nothing. And you look at those fixtures to come after that, if they can sort of keep their heads above water, then yes. But at the same time, to the second point of your question, this is Man City. They always can come back. They always generally do. Given
what you know, all of the nuances that we've discovered, changing factors from now until the end of the season, how do you see it going? Who's winning the league?
Well, I think first of all, it's exciting that it genuinely seems like a 3-horse race. I mean, when was the last time we had that? I honestly can't remember. I mean, but having said that, it's one thing saying it now. If we're still the 3-horse race with sort of 6 games to go, then that's when we know it really is a genuine sort of 3 teams
on the last
into
day
it.
of the season.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't quite like that at that point. I still have to go with City. I think they've got the best players, they've got the best manager, they've got the winning mentality, they've got the experience of doing it. But if anyone is going to break them and break that sort of stranglehold they've got on the Premier League, they're going to have to reach a new level that they hadn't before. Liverpool have done it before, to be fair to them. They are hampered by injuries, not that it seems to really be hampering them too much at the moment.
You feel like that will catch up with them shortly, though?
I don't know. I mean, I've watched nothing. I was at the Carabao Cup final against Chelsea, and yes, it was sort of embarrassing from Chelsea point of view, given the sort of relative lack of experience for Liverpool. But you can't underestimate the sort of collegiate atmosphere that Liverpool have in that dressing room now, particularly with Jurgen Klopp. Sort of, we all know he's leaving at the end of the season, and the sort of motivating factor that brings in. And they will get some of those players back before the end of the season. So I wouldn't rule them out. I mean, Arsenal feels like they have the most to do, but that doesn't mean they can't do it.
Absolutely. Tom Barkley there giving his thoughts on all things Arsenal ahead of what could be their biggest 10-game period, domestically certainly, for 2 decades. But as everyone seems to think, me included, at this stage, Arsenal loads to do. Although exciting as it is, everyone's still backing City on the quiet at the moment. However, big 2 months for Arsenal. It could be the most historic of the modern era.
We're on a bit of an information gathering quest in the next hour or so. Delighted to say the former Chief Executive, Peter Moore, former Chief Executive of Liverpool Football Club, is joining us live here in studio, and he's just flown in from the US, where you reside in where? Beautiful Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara, Jim, absolutely, yeah.
Wonderful.
Weather's a little better there than it is here.
I was going to say, of the 4 of us, you are by far looking the healthiest. That's not difficult when it comes to Danny and me, but you've picked this man, Jordan, anyway.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm great, Jim. Great to be here. I'm just saying, we watch and listen in California all the time. If I can't sleep at night, I'll get the feed and listen to you gentlemen around with that, which is a lot. Yeah.
Well, you soon do, yeah. Soon, no doubt.
For those who don't know, And Peter, you've very kindly been on the show a few times before. Peter left the UK in 1981 for the US and enjoyed a very successful career at Sega, Reebok, Microsoft, EA. He returned to the UK in 2017 to take up a 3-season post as Liverpool's chief exec. Chief exec, of course, from 2017 to August 2020, with Billy Hogan stepping up from his role as the club's managing director and chief commercial officer to replace him. And of course, during your time, and this is why Liverpool fans love you, but they love you anyway. During your tenure with the club, Liverpool won the UEFA Champions League, the FIFA Club World Cup and the Premier League. You're also named Premier League Chief Exec of the Year in 2019. How do you look back on that time after you listen to all that being reeled off?
Well, it was a phenomenal 3 seasons. And you know, sadly, the last season was the COVID season and we couldn't share it with the fans. It was, for me, chance of a lifetime, Liverpool lad, born and bred. First game I went to was Liverpool versus Leyton Orient in November of 1959. And we were still in the second division. Phil Taylor was, I was 4. Phil Taylor was the manager. Shankly came in the month after. And my dad, God rest his soul, imbued in me a love of the club, as did his dad. So, you know, it's really multi-generational. And so the opportunity to come back to the UK for 3 years to run the club was once in a lifetime. Obviously couldn't say no.
Actually, that's a bit like you and Palace, because you've often told me about your dad who played for Palace, hence your interest in it. Am I right? Similarity, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up supporting the club, absolutely, and then made the foolish decision to go and buy it.
But Peter, your lovely wife Debbie, who's with you,
yes,
her favourite football stadium is this man Selhurst Park, am I right?
And as is one of mine as well. Debbie, you know, American girl, comes over, puts up with the weather of Liverpool for 3 seasons, very active within the city and within the club, but would go to all the away games with me and loved Selhurst Park. The atmosphere, it was at first the eagle that would fly across the pitch, and then that eagle unfortunately passed away. But everybody at Crystal Palace, it just felt like a family club, old school. She recognized it from Ted Lasso instantly, and then it was something where we always felt very welcome and always did okay there. But what an atmosphere, and good on night games at Selhurst Park when Liverpool visited was great. And Steve Parish does a phenomenal job there, and Phil Alexander, you remember as well, always made us feel incredibly welcome. Not always the case at away games, to be honest, but Selhurst Park, yes.
Where did you not feel welcome?
I'm not going to even talk about that.
So Peter, this man tried so hard. Danny Murphy, Liverpool legend, but he couldn't win the Premier League. When you were there, they did. What on earth, as you say, it was during COVID, and I remember the presentation of the trophy, etc. But it was a 30-year wait.
Yeah.
How on earth did you feel when you thought, my God, they've done it? They've done it at last.
Well, it was building throughout the season, and interestingly, as COVID was looming, you might remember that the final football game played in England was at Anfield. Atletico Madrid came in and beat us that night. Right, and then I think Mikel Arteta tested positive, and then everything went pear-shaped after that.
I remember that, you're right.
Yeah, and as we got closer to that, Richard Masters had called me and said, look, we're feeling like we're going to get shut down. If you beat Crystal Palace and then you take on Everton. No, if you beat Everton, which was the next game up, you have Crystal Palace at Anfield, we're going to bring the trophy. And this was March. And because we had clinched it by then, we'd have enough points to clinch it. Obviously, it never happened, and we went behind closed doors, which was surreal for those last 9 games. But it was very much a period. And to be fair, it became a made-for-television event. Sky Sports did a great job in making it feel like a big event with like 30 of us in the stadium. And it was sad, bluntly, that we'd waited 30 years to get our 19th championship. Football did start before the Premier League. And that we couldn't share it with the fans. And it was sad. And we said then we'll have a parade. Sounds like we're having a parade at the end of this season, and maybe we can throw the Premier League trophy on there as well.
I was there in 1990, the last time they won it, when they beat QPR. And it was, I'd been very lucky, probably as you, over the years. Seen it before. You never for 1 second then in 1990 thought it was going to be 30 years.
Yeah.
And what I keep saying this season when people talk about it is, you know, forget even before the League Cup win, and I was asked the question, I think for Liverpool supporters, so many who haven't seen them win it, or been able to celebrate them with them to win it, forget the other 3 trophies. I think every Liverpool fan on the planet would throw away those 3 to have the league title.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
It was like having a party in your house and nobody turned up, something Simon has experienced on many occasions. Peter, no, he hasn't. Very popular man. Peter, here's the thing. Simon and I were on a Friday quite recently, and the news came through, and we literally did a double take. We said, say that again? Say that again? Klopp is leaving Liverpool. I want to get your reaction to that in a second, but this is how we all heard it.
Mm-hmm.
I will leave the club at the end of the season. I can understand that it's a shock for a lot of people in this moment when you hear it the first time, and I love absolutely everything about this club. I love everything about the city. I love everything about our supporters. I love the team. I love the staff. I love everything. That I still take this decision probably will or shows you that I'm convinced it's the one I have to take. It is that I'm running out of energy. I'm absolutely fine now, but I know that I cannot do the job again and again and again and again.
We were shocked. He'd known about the decision was to go, and they'd all known a secret number, like a few people had known since about November last year. When did you know?
When the announcement came out at I think it was 2 a.m. our time in California. For some reason, I happened to be looking at my phone, and it popped up as a notification. On the LFC app, and I was stunned. And I woke my wife up. It was like, you're not going to believe. She wasn't happy being woken up at 2 a.m. but said, you're not going to believe this. And you're right, Jim. I mean, from what I understand, it was no more than half a dozen people within the club were aware of it. And he obviously needed to keep it a secret. Mike Gordon back at FSG in Boston was aware. But as you and I talked last time we were on, if he's not giving 100%, then he's not going to do it. And that's exactly what I heard in his voice just then, that he talks about, I can't do it on 3 wheels, rabbits can't jump as high, all of the analogies that Jurgen always uses. And I was reflecting, watching the Man City game at the weekend, the exhaustion of managing a game like that on top of the Chelsea League Cup final prior. Can you imagine doing that week in, week out? And I've seen him over the 3 years that I was there. He is absolutely all in, not only as a manager or a coach, but this is a human being that values his players first as human beings and manages everything about them, and then secondly as football players. And when you have that, and you're an empath like he is, and you've got that emotional IQ that he does, it exhausts you. He's a classic extrovert that gives everything and takes very little. And to be on those sidelines, to do this week in, week out, with the expectations of the fans, both locally and globally, it didn't surprise me. It disappointed me. It's going to be a challenging period for the club, but I was saddened. I went through these 12 stages of grief and denial on this because I reflected immediately, where do we go from here? But, his exhaustion levels, his wife Ula, who's at times his mentor as well as his wife, they're building a home in Spain, I understand. He's now a granddad, so all of those factors coming together. And I think he feels very good about the squad that is now in place. Yeah. That he won't feel guilty that he's leaving the club in any kind of turmoil or trouble or having to spend a fortune in the transfer market. And I think that's where it's at. And all of that comes together. And that's what you get with Jurgen Klopp.
We're going to head to a break, Peter, but like everyone, were you surprised by the timing of it? Mid-season?
Well, not really. I think that, I was given the opportunity to take my job because my predecessor, to his credit, gave a year's notice, Ian Ayre, and said, look, I'm going to leave at the end of the season. And that allowed FSG to then go on a search, somewhat confidentially, and identified me. And I think that you have an obligation, forget football, but think corporately, enterprise-wise, that you need succession planning. And it's got to be done over a period of time, and it's given FSG, who knew in November, the opportunity to probably put some soft feelers out for who is not only him. You're losing you're losing Pep Lijnders, you're losing Victor Mayas, you're losing Peter Krawietz, so there's a little bit of a reset required. And you don't have a sporting director. So when you think about it from the enterprise organizational perspective, him suddenly saying at the end of the season would have been an absolute disaster. And I think he understood that. And his relationship in particular with Mike Gordon is so strong that I think he probably felt that he had an obligation to give them an early heads up that this is the way he was leaning.
Okay, Peter, it's great having you on board. As you're speaking, as happens on this show, the listeners out there, the viewers on YouTube and Facebook all get involved, which is what we want. Loads and loads of questions for you. One from me. Who's going to take over then?
Your guess is as good as mine. Obviously, everybody's leaving towards Xabi Alonso on this, and who knows. But I think that the recent news, which I'm sure we'll talk about with Michael coming back, and him being tasked together with Theo Epstein in Boston, who we can talk about as well. As a Boston Red Sox fan, I can give you the background there. Yeah. But and I think that's the brilliance of what's going on here. This is not just a football club that sits on its own. It's got the power of Fenway Sports Group in Boston, the Boston Red Sox, the Pittsburgh Pirates. You've got an entity that is going to help sift through who is the best candidate, not just as a manager or a coach, but what that staff is going to look like.
Fantastic. Former Liverpool Chief Executive Peter Moore is with us live here in studio. Stay with us. What is it about, before I go any further, one or two people are asking me to ask you, I don't know how I'll phrase it. I've got this image of John W. Henry. I've said hello to him at Wembley a few occasions, but no more than that. Doesn't say much. Avoids people like me. And quite rightly. What's your perception of it? How should we view him? Should Liverpool fans view him? I've got this image of him sitting in a room, some kind of genius with numbers. But does he pull on the Liverpool scarf? Does he get?
Oh, absolutely.
Does he get passionate?
Very much so.
Does he shout at the screen?
He and his wife Linda in particular, love coming to Liverpool to watch the games. The FSG empire and everything that John has, including the Boston Globe. Which is one of the premier newspapers in America, which Linda runs. But, John is spread a little too thin to be popping over all the time to Anfield. But John's a savant, and he is brilliant at identifying opportunities on a major scale in sports. Most recently, you may have read that they've invested in the PGA Tour as part of a strategic sports group, I think it's called. And John's in there for $1.5 billion to prop up PGA Tour golf, obviously against Live Golf, who are now partners. So, right. But they started off with the Boston Red Sox. They own, on a vertical perspective, they own New England Sports Network, which broadcasts the Red Sox games, because you've got this verticalization of the sports experience in Boston. Most recently, I think 2 years ago, Pittsburgh Pirates of the NHL. They're involved in NASCAR with Roush Fenway Racing. So it's an amazing group of partners. I think it's about 15 partners that come together with their own personal wealth and have put the money in. And FSG has grown enormously in the past few years.
You love Liverpool Football Club. Does John W. Henry love Liverpool Football Club?
He does. And I'll tell you a story. When I first met John, many, many years before I became actually CEO, he asked me to come upstairs to their apartment. Linda was there. They were just having, I think, their first baby. And John was going through what I thought were VHS tapes of Liverpool playing. And he asked me about this Dalglish guy that he had been watching hours of footage to understand what the club was all about, and he'd already, at that point, had purchased the club, but was doing his background, which was going all the way back to the 70s, and said, I'll be in the 80s next week, and then I'll eventually get to the 90s, because he wanted to understand the club at a deeper level than just the numbers, and that's who John is, and he is spread amazingly thin. I always enjoyed having him over. My staff at the time would tell you John would go wandering around Anfield. We'd lose him because he wanted to look at every nook and cranny of what the stadium was all about. And he's not the most emotive of individuals, but I can tell you that when he would come over, he would analyze the game. He would sit. He wouldn't say much. But there's a deep love there.
Sure.
And because, look, they could cash out at any time. I mean, there's no two ways about it, right? When you think about it.
Right.
And why wouldn't they? Well, because they love what they have. And they realize from the get-go They were never the owners, but they were the stewards.
Sure thing.
They know who owns the club.
So what do you, Peter, and the likes of John W. make of the likes of Todd Bowley, who comes into Chelsea, and a £1 billion spend later, we see where they're at?
Yeah, it shows you how difficult football is. I mean, from that perspective, and I admire Todd. You know, I live in Southern California, so I admire what he's done with the LA Dodgers, and so I knew of him before. You know, the acquisition of Chelsea.
Maybe should have brought you with him.
But I think Todd jumped in like maybe he does in baseball, and he was the de facto sporting director for a little while, and then I think he realized he needed adult supervision in that before, you know, throwing all that money around. So I think Chelsea eventually will sort itself out. They've got a real issue with Stamford Bridge, and you know they've got to sort that out. But this is somebody that is very dedicated, I think, to bringing Chelsea back to where they're at. And so having the Todd Bowleys of this world, I think, is good for football. But from the perspective, yeah, it's been a rough couple of years.
And
so
Stan
far.
Kroenke at Arsenal, he's turned
I
it
love
around.
Stan. I love Stan.
Doesn't say much.
No, and recently my wife Debbie and I went to see the LA Rams at the as guests of Kroenke's organization. He has his own. He doesn't sit in a suite. He has a room where he watches the game. Nobody goes in there. Nobody talks to him, and he's very intense. But he has done, I think, and very hands off. His son Josh, who I've met a number of times, is very impressive. But you know, Stan's not only got the LA Rams and Arsenal. He's got Denver Nuggets. I mean, this is somebody that's got a massive sports empire, and interesting character, but very intense, and loves his LA Rams, which he brought back from St. Louis back to Los Angeles.
Okay, two more from me then.
Yeah.
Who's going to win the Premier League title?
I hope it's our Reds. I think it's going to be. It's great for Premier League, good for football that we've got the race that we do. It's amazing.
That's what your heart says. What does your head say?
I know Arsenal have got to go to the Etihad, and I think that could be a game that decides everything. I'm a little worried this is going to end up on goal difference at this point, you know. So, and Arsenal scoring goals for fun right now. So
could do, Peter.
Yeah.
And if you had a choice, would your choice to succeed Jurgen be Xabi Alonso?
As a fan, I think you need somebody that the fans immediately know, love, have fond memories of. Long-range goals against Newcastle United and Luton in the Cup, and what a gentleman, an elegant player. Anybody that was involved in Istanbul, you know, is a legend, and of course he was.
We'll have him.
But I think Xabi, look, and nobody's going to replace Jurgen. Nobody is going to replace Jurgen, and nobody will even try to do what it is. But over a period of time, I think you've got somebody, and what FSG will do is give this, whoever that new manager is, time. You remember Jurgen, for the first couple of years, it was difficult. And fond memory, I met Jurgen the day he was hired, and I wasn't even working for the club then. I'd been brought in by Billy Hogan as kind of here to London. As an MC, I was still at EA, Electronic Arts, as the chief operating officer, but they knew of me as a big Liverpool fan. And we played Spurs the next day at White Hart Lane, and all we had, as Jurgen said, was Divock Origi up front. And we got a draw. And got a draw. It wasn't pretty, but you could tell then this was the man for the job. And that's when doubters became believers.
You have been amazing, Peter. Really enjoyed your company. Do you think FSG know who they want at this moment?
Oh, I think they know. Now, but I know I want a full head of hair. So do you, Jim. So do you, Daddy. You know, but it's like what you can get. And I think that, look, whatever's happened has started in November. There's no doubt in my mind that
so
knowing
they could be
FSG,
well down the road to it.
They're down the road with either soft conversations, feelers out, and bringing Michael back to, if you will, seal the deal, I think will be very important.
Peter Moore, it's great seeing. We've spoken often on the phone, but this has been extra special. Thank you so much for being with us. You're off to Vegas after this, aren't you, to see Bruce Springsteen?
Yeah, we're my wife Debbie and I, our full-time home is in Montecito, Santa Barbara, California, but we also in Lake Las Vegas, which is a little community outside of Vegas. We bought a home for a number of reasons, and love what's going on in Vegas, in sports in particular here. There's no doubt in my mind. We have the NFL, we're getting Major League Baseball, we already have hockey. No doubt in my mind the NBA now will finally come to Vegas in the next couple of years.
Peter, you've been brilliant. It's a great friend of mine, Alan, Your man Moore has been brilliant this lunchtime. Really enjoyed it. He's a lifelong Evertonian.
They're Blues. He's not bitter though, is he? Is he a bitter Blue?
Doesn't sound
No, he doesn't sound like
He's
it.
a fan of yours by the sound of it.
Yeah.
On AM, on DAB, via the talksport app and on your smart speaker. Talksport.
Thank God you don't.
Well, I think it would make sense for at least to try and have a conversation yourself as to whether you are fully committed to finishing at the end of the season. With Michael Edwards, it probably makes even more sense, given the history between the two.
We had that conversation. No, we had a conversation. Michael and I always had a really good relationship. There was never, was always very good on a professional basis. Anyway, really good, and a lot of good things happened. Obviously, in the time when we were here together, and Michael decided to do something else, and now he's back. I'm really happy. I'm really happy. So I said a few times that I want to see the club in the best possible place after I left, stuff like this. So everything we can do, as long as I'm here, I will do. And after that, other people have to do it. And I think it's a top solution, honestly, top solution. And our conversation was obviously great. And we spoke about a lot of things, about what I think about different things, players, stuff like this, situation in the club, and because I was in all the time while he was not in, so what did change, what might have to change, these kind of things. So like a really good talk, and how is that? I think it's top news for the club.
Just to clarify though, did he try to persuade you to stay?
No, because, and that's very important in the job, because he's not dumb. That was not a subject to talk about, to be honest. It's like, can you imagine I changed my mind? No. Just can you? So, of course not. I cannot say what I said. It would be like if I never ever another club in England and sign for next year for our neighbors or whatever, or whoever needs a coach. That would be completely crazy. I don't say these things without thinking before. So it would mean I start only now realizing how great this club is. I know it all the time. It's for me the best club in the world. So and I leave it anyway. That's what I try to explain. It's nothing to. I just want the club to do as good as somehow possible, and I'm really sure that we create a good basis with the right people in charge. And Michael is a top choice.
When it comes to this game as well, obviously you've got a decent cushion, but how does that impact on team selection? Because you went with a pretty experienced 11 over in Prague. Can you play more of the youngsters this time around, or do you have to be wary of giving Sparta a sniff of getting back into the tie?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think it's really important that you, whatever football game you play, you should. Sometimes you have to chase a game. If you lost the first one 1-0, you can't ignore the first one. But even then, you just have to win that game first and foremost, and then you will see how much that means, the result you can get. And for us, it just means we want to play the best possible football game. That's always the way we decided about the lineup. And I couldn't tell you in this moment what I will do if I wanted. And I don't want to, but I couldn't, because it's just after that I go to the training ground, and in these times you always wait until the last second, and everybody tells you he has a bit niggle here, he has a bit of problem there, and he might need an extra day, or these kind of things. We had that yesterday already with a few players who need an extra day, so let's see how that looks now today, and then I make my decision about lineup. But the lineup the idea of the lineup will be to have the best legs for that game, because that's what we need. Because we have to ignore the result, I would say, but not the performance. And performing-wise, they had massive chances against us. They caused us massive problems in moments. We've had to make a few outstanding saves, and that's in my mind. And not how we scored the goals and stuff like this, but because that was mainly individual quality. It was a few good football situations as well, but it was individual quality about them. And so we need to keep rhythm for that part of the season. It's not about on and off, it's about keep the rhythm and keep going. And don't think about the next game on Sunday, even when the opponent is Manchester United.
Girls.
Hi Jürgen. It has been relentless for your players, playing week in, week out, and your players haven't really had any rest. But has the momentum helped playing in all these competitions, going into big game after big game?
Yeah, you can see that like that in the end, but it was anyway tough, super tough, because game after game. We have now teams. I think Arsenal played last night, the last game until after international break, right? So that's a long break. Everton didn't play that this week at all, if I'm right. So that's not good as well. I don't think they like it. That there's 3 weeks in the middle of the season is fantastic. But we have our challenge with it. That's the challenge we have now, and we play tomorrow and then on Sunday, and then the players play obviously 2 games for their countries. Pretty much 85% of the players do that, which is then a tough one as well. So we just don't think about it. We just play the games. It's not about it. And momentum is always, maybe in the moment we have it, I don't actually know if we still have it. We had it at the weekend a little bit, but now do we have it still? I don't know. We have to see that tomorrow night. But if we don't have it, we have to get it as quick as possible and keep it. And keep it through the game, and then we will see how we deal with that and how the result will be. But good results always help. They always help. Good performances always help. But even that is a challenge to bring that again on the pitch, because if you played bad, then actually it's clear you have to play better. So if you play good, you want to play as good at least or better. So that's actually the idea, and not that you have consistency in it. The boys were quite consistent, I have to say now, in recent weeks, but it's a long run in all competitions, a long run in, and we are not even close to the finishing line. It doesn't feel like that. I can't see it yet, the finishing line. I just see Sparta Prague wants to put things right, and we have to play a really good football game, because it's our home game, it's our stadium, it's our competition. We wanted to make it our competition from the first day of the competition, so we want to go as far as possible, and it would be cool if you could say after the game as well. So we still have the momentum, but at the moment I don't know.
And Joe Gomez, one of those players who has been really consistent this season. He's played right across the back line, played midfield as well. How much has that developed him as a player? Does he see the game in a different way as well?
I couldn't be happier for Joey. Joey was obviously in our most successful years. He was super important, super important. Played an incredible amount of games, 19, 20, stuff like this, probably 18 as well. I don't think that long back, but some injuries and our stuff happened a little bit, and then he was in and out of the team. Always important to us, always important, but I think that this season is the most consistent. He played, especially because of different positions. I think the least games he played on centre half probably, so because we always needed him somewhere else, and he did exceptionally well. And I think it developed his game massively. If you would have asked me before the game, before the season, what do you think about inverted right or left back? What do you think about generally the 6, stuff like this? Don't know if I would have said, yeah, of course, come on, Joey can do that. But that was opportunity. What opportunity sometimes does to you, that you really grow with the challenges you face, and that's what Joey definitely did. He's in exceptional shape, and long may it continue.
Carl.
Hi Jürgen, you gave Mo 15 and 30 minutes off the bench in 2 appearances. Is he still in the building up process, or are we getting to a point where he's almost back to?
Yeah, of course. It's possible as long as would have been possible playing longer last game, but it was just a game. How it is, you cannot. It's important that we build up more. Obviously, super important. But in this game, changing at half time was not necessary or possible, because we have to deal with changes pretty carefully. So yeah, he's ready. This is for 90 minutes, but he's ready. He's top fit. Everything is good now, and we don't have to deal with these kind of things anymore.
Richard.
Hi Jürgen. Since you gave your news a few weeks ago, you've always expressed a lot of optimism about the future of the club, but since then, in terms of both the way the young players have come through, the results the team have had, and now the news about Michael Edwards, has that only served to reinforce your confidence?
Yeah, absolutely. The club is in a really good moment, really good place. So of course, people will measure that only at the end of the season and have a look what we really achieved. But that's not that important for the future. What we achieved is it's for now. For the future, it's important how good is the team, how good are the players, how good is the structure, how good is the organization. And that's what I say. That's where my optimism comes from. So that's why I think it's a rather good moment to be with LFC. So that's how it is, and really happy about that. But that's a general question and a general answer. It has nothing to do with the game tomorrow. So I'm absolutely on my toes for tomorrow. And now we have to make sure that everybody feels the same, and then we should be able to play a good football game. But that's all what I want.
Paul Joyce from the last one, David Anderson.
Yeah, could I ask you about the growth of Virgil this season? Even as obviously being a talismanic player for you, but do you think the captaincy's given him something extra, or his own determination just to step up again? Do you see a different player maybe from last season, or?
If just an armband right here would make us the best version of ourselves again, we all should try it. Just wearing something, it's not a problem, eh? So put it there and let's see what happens. Yeah. Definitely a big step again, but just back to his best. And when you play the level Virgil played for so many years now for us, and there's a dip in after an injury, stuff like this, and everybody discusses it like it's over. It's not nice, but it's the world we are living in. So that's how it is. So it was never a real problem. But we all need, and especially if you play on the level the boys play, little problems can lead to a big difference in performance. That's how it is. You don't see 100%, just 80, and you step out and you don't win it, and the player turns right instead of left. You read the situation wrong and gone, and the whole world tells you, no, he's not the best defender in the world anymore. So dealing with all these things at a pretty young age, because Virgil's now not that young anymore, but he's still a young human being. It's not that he is 60 and saw it all. So and super ambitious and wants to reach a lot of things with his club and all these kind of things. And yes, the captaincy helped. He took the role sensationally well. All of them did. The whole leadership group stepped really up. Now it was a little bit of a problem that most of us. In Prague was only Robbo on the pitch and Virgil on the bench, and 3 of the others. I know Mo was there as well. So yeah, coming back slowly but surely. But they all made a big step. So that was always the plan and the idea and the hope that it will be like that when you lose the leaders of the last few years. And that worked out really, really well. It's like I hoped for. Not that I knew that it will happen, but that was exactly what I thought. It would be fantastic if it could be like that. And that's all due to the boys that it worked out really well.
Last one, David Anderson.
And after that.
Yeah, could just go back to Mo. He said he's ready for 90 minutes. Can he start? Because I know you focus.
No, I'm not sure he's ready for 90 minutes. I'm not sure we should do 90 minutes, but he's ready to start. So that's how it is. He would have been ready to start in the last game, but then you don't know how long does it make sense, and that's always a problem if players come back. So it's like Mo. I can't remember a game where I thought, oh, Mo Salah cannot play, no problem. It just never happen. So it's not cool not to not happen. But there's a game on last Sunday, and there's a game, and there are 10 more Premier League games, and hopefully a lot more Cup and European games, stuff like this. So they are as important. And Mo was completely fine with that. Would he have loved to play a little bit longer? Probably yes, but I cannot before the game decide when we do what, these kind of things. So, but he's ready to start. So is that then already, shall he then be 90 minutes on the pitch? That depends on how it looks in that moment and all these kind of things. But we all know Mo usually can play game after game after game after game. Now he was out for a surprisingly long time. But now he's back, and now we have to make sure that we can really count on him consistently again.
Thank you, Abdul.
Trossard levelled the tie just before half-time, courtesy of what was an incredible assist from Arsenal's captain, Martin Odegaard, who we just heard from. And when you consider what Leandro Trossard has done so far this season, it's been remarkable what he's done in the Champions League. He's scored in his first 3 matches at home in the Champions League for Arsenal. The last time that happened was Bukayo Saka. The time before that, Alexis Sanchez, who we've just seen. And we can actually see his goal contributions this season, 11 already in all competitions this season. He's become incredibly important for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal since joining from Brighton in the January of 2023. And he's averaging a goal involvement every 122 minutes, which puts him 3rd on that list behind Saka and just behind Gabriel Jesus as well. Crucially, he's just ahead of Gabriel Martinelli. So we wait to see what happens when the Brazilian returns from injury, because Mikel Arteta now has a real conundrum in that left wing position, but it's a good headache to have for Arsenal because they now have real quality and strength and depth in all positions.
Okay, it's not often when we kind of see a great goal like he scored and it's such a crucial goal, yet we're drooling over the assist. It shows how good that was from Odegaard, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was really special. I think, you know, the best sort of languid creators of the 21st century, the likes of Iniesta, Ozil, Zidane, they'd all be proud of that assist. It was a moment of exceptional spatial awareness, timing. The fact he's also falling over as he delivers the pass just made it even more aesthetically pleasing. And it was Trossard's only shot on the night, tucks it away really nicely. But Odegaard, I think, was, aside from David Raya, probably Arsenal's best player. Wendell, who I already mentioned, shackled Bukayo Saka really effectively on the right wing. He struggled to really exert much influence. But it was Martin Odegaard that was constantly probing, picking up the right positions, and nearly grabbed a winning goal, or a goal that would send them through in normal time as well, with that shot that Gabriel Jesus nearly got on the end of as well. And it's satisfying for Odegaard because he did start the season slower than he finished last season, came in for a little bit of criticism. So to have exerted his influence in such a massive game for Arsenal felt like a big moment for him too.
It was one of those moments where you can tell instantly from the sound of the crowd that it was something special. You know, even before Trossard finished it, there was an acknowledgement of what an amazing piece of skill it was, and to have the composure and quality to then produce that pass as well, it was really special. And it was impressive as well because Porto had actually done a good job on him. You know, they really had nullified him. They'd limited his influence. He'd only had 14 touches in that first half. He only made 6 successful passes, but when the moment arrived, when he needed to show that bit of quality, he produced, and that is what the big players do in those moments. And it was a lovely piece of skill to watch, wasn't it? And a huge contribution in the context of the game.
Yeah, and just how important was it for Arsenal, James, to progress given their recent record?
Well, they've not won anything yet, but it feels like Arsenal have crossed a significant psychological barrier by reaching the quarter-final stage. That's because they'd lost at the last 16 stage in each of their past 7 appearances in the Champions League. That includes some fairly humiliating nights, really, at the Emirates, including their last appearance at this stage in 2017. They were dumped out 10-2 on aggregate by Bayern Munich. And Mikel Arteta, the player, featured in 5 of these. As a manager, last night he finally ended his European curse at home. He previously managed 5 Europa League ties at the Emirates Stadium without winning any of them. So it's taken 14 years and 3 days, but Arsenal are finally back in the last 8 of the Champions League.
Oh, that's amazing, isn't it? Because there's some Arsenal fans in their mid-20s who are still in primary school the last time that happened. There's a thing. Arsenal chances of winning both... let's get greedy now. Of winning both the Premier League and the Champions League.
Incredibly difficult to do both, but you know, you've got to be in with the shout, and they're in with the shout in both competitions. They are probably the form team in the Premier League right now. I think the Champions League will be particularly difficult because all the favourites thus far have won, and there are teams that have a superior record against Arsenal in latter stages. You know, Man City, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Barcelona. You know, they've all beaten Arsenal in big games in recent years and have more experience in latter stages of competition. You know, we talk about their last 16 record, but Arsenal haven't made the semi-finals of the Champions League since 2008-09 when Ronaldo scored a brace. So it feels like a long, long time ago that, you know, Arsenal have been at this stage of the competition. I think it'll be easier right now to focus on the Premier League, but as long as they're in Europe, they'll want to try and go for both.
Yeah, I think they'd take one of the two, wouldn't they? I don't think even the most optimistic Arsenal fan could possibly imagine a double this season.
Which would you, if you're an Arsenal fan?
Well, I think the Premier League has to be the number one, doesn't it? I mean, for Arsenal, obviously the Champions League has added significance given they've never won it, but it's a really tough decision. I mean, Premier League is kind of the bread and butter of a team like Arsenal, and that's the one that I think they'll be thinking of most closely. That's the one that best measures your kind of quality as a team, doesn't it, over the course of 38 games. But I mean, I think what they've lacked in Champions League terms is experience. You know, even the team they put out last night, a lot of those players were new to the Champions League this season, you know, making their first sort of appearances in the competition. And Man City show the importance of having that experience. You know, it took 7 seasons for Pep Guardiola to get this trophy, even though you could easily argue that Man City have been the best team in Europe for longer than a year. So I think that's something they need to build up over time, you know, and last night will help. It was almost a crash course in what the Champions League can throw at you, you know, a wily, streetwise opponent. Remember, Porto play in the Champions League every year. They know exactly what it takes in these games, you know, they know how to disrupt opposition, they know how to make life very, very difficult, and Arsenal came through that. They passed a big test of character, and you know, they can dream. They're in the last state, they're a very good team. They should be bolstered by this experience they've had against Porto. But yeah, of the two, I mean, I'd say that the Premier League has to be the priority, but you know, who knows?
19 days off for Arsenal now before that big one against Manchester City. The players, or the majority of those players, don't get that time off because they'll be joining up with their international squads. But that sort of breaking the rhythm of what Arsenal are doing as a squad, as a collective, as a group, is that a help or a hindrance?
Well, without meaning to sit on the fence, I think you can go both ways with these things. You know, Arsenal, I think if they'd lost last night on penalties, that would have been a really huge stop in their momentum. There'd be a lot of criticism. You know, they were expected to beat FC Porto, despite the fact, as Nick points out, you know, they'd had great performances against Inter Milan and Liverpool in recent years, FC Porto, so they were not easy opponents whatsoever. But Arsenal, the last time they had a break in the season, they went to Dubai. That was after their difficult festive period, and since then they've won 8 out of 8. This is slightly different because there is obviously an international break here, and a lot of their players will be involved in international duty. But what I think is quite interesting is that Martin Odegaard's playing for Norway in 2 friendlies. Norway aren't involved in the Euros. Perhaps he'll be not playing both 90 minutes in those. Gabriel and Saliba aren't necessarily first choice for France and Brazil respectively just yet. So as long as they come through injury-free, I think they can go full throttle for that game against Man City on the 31st.
It's interesting, isn't it? Before last night, I probably would have said it would be a hindrance, that it would disrupt their rhythm at a time when they really need to continue that rhythm. But then, being at the ground last night, watching the players, I mean, they really did look dead on their feet at the end of them, at the end of extra time, some of them. And I think now, you know, having come through these 2 games against Brentford and Porto and emerged with victories in both, I think it's a good time for a break. And we saw the impact of that mid-season break in Dubai. You know, I think it's 9 wins out of 10 since then. So Arsenal have shown the benefits of having that period of rest in the middle of the season, and they'll be hoping this one can have a similar effect, because obviously there is a massive game looming afterwards.
Yeah, but last night was obviously very difficult last night. I watched it, it was quite nervy, but obviously David Raya was absolutely phenomenal in goal. I thought he was absolutely great. But I watched a couple of clips on YouTube, and Thierry Henry and obviously Carragher was asking the questions and on a YouTube clip, and they were saying to Bukayo Saka and Raya, like, what would you rather prefer, Premier League or Champions League? And they were saying both to, like, Thierry Henry, and even he agreed. Why not go for both?
Well, absolutely. What do you think? Is it achievable?
If the players stay fit, then why not? We got players coming back, like Jurriën Timber now, he's in training. Obviously, he weren't on the bench. Jesus come on last night, on the last little bit. He looked absolutely, as soon as he come on, he was on fire. I mean, he nearly scored a goal straight away.
But Lee, 20 years without the title, you've never won the Champions League. What would you wish to win most?
I mean, Premier League. I mean, both really. I mean, look, we just got in the quarterfinals after 14 years.
Yes.
I mean, Bukayo Saka was saying that Mikel Arteta was just jumping for joy afterwards. You know, you could only see his face after, when after 14 years they didn't get in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
You know, when he was a player. I mean, it was just great, I think, just to get in the quarterfinals. But, I mean...
I think a lot of Arsenal fans have seen Arsenal win the league. I know it's a long time, but they've won a lot of league titles. They've never seen them win the Champions League. And if you're a player in that squad that wins the Champions League, they'll be remembered forever.
Yeah, I agree.
I think even if they win the league, they'll be talked about favourably, but it's just another Arsenal team that's won the league.
Sure thing. Dom, you're a big Arsenal fan. What do you think? I mean, are both of these competitions very much on for Arsenal?
Hello, boys. You all right?
Morning, Dom. Yeah, great, mate.
Just getting my voice back from last night. That was. Do you know what? I want to say, boys, because I was left the stadium last night and I'm listening to talksport and different things, and I worry about certain fans, how they look at games and how they look at things. But Danny Murphy's probably the perfect person. He played the game. He talks a good game as well. He knows how it is with getting nervous in big situations like that, especially for players like Saliba. It's his first time. But I wanted to say, yesterday for me, you got to look at it. Arsenal have played probably the same 11 week in, week out. We ain't got a squad like City. So people could forget we played 5:30 on Saturday night against Brentford. Took a lot out of us. We had 48 hours rest. So we can't go into a game and we're going to go in there and think we're going to smash another 4 or 5. It don't work like that. So I'm more pleased that we got the goal. We kept our energy levels, waited for the right. Well, we was trying to wait for the right moment, and because it couldn't come, we didn't concede and we stayed in it. And sometimes that is better than trying to. You can't always win 4 or 5-0. So people need to look in perspective that Arsenal, you can't go and smash everyone all the time. It don't work like that, especially in Europe. So that was my first point I wanted to make. But secondly, as an Arsenal fan, like I said, Danny Murphy just touched on it. Behind Liverpool and Man United, we've won 13 league titles. We've been there, we've done that, right? We've won 14 FA Cups. We're the holders of the FA Cup. We've done that. The Champions League for Arsenal, to put us, we're a massive club, Arsenal, but to that Champions League, for me, emotionally, for Arsenal fans, until we win that, that's what everyone can throw at us. You ain't won the Champions League. And for me, as an Arsenal fan, that would be my dream. I'd love us to win that. But listen, there's a long way to go. We've got players coming back. We can't get carried away. We've just got to take one game at a time. And you never know. You just never know.
Well, do you know what? He made some great points. The first one, from a footballing perspective, is spot on, because I was watching the game and I was talking to my boy about the fact they had to dig in against Brentford when they went 1-1 and play more intense instead of cruising at 2 or 3-0. And the reality is, if you think of Newcastle recently in the Champions League in the last group game where they went hell for leather to try and win it, they'd have managed the game better. They'd at least been in the Europa. Now, I know that's a little bit of a different scenario, but what he's talking about is that there wasn't a panic. Arsenal didn't go, oh my God, we've got to get the second, and panic. They just kept playing, and it didn't come, but they went to pens. Now, it could have gone the other way.
True.
But I do think that was clever. That was good.
Yeah.
And the Champions League debate, I make him right, because that's something the club has never done.
Never won it. Dom, listen, thank you for the call.
Great
We're going to
call,
squeeze
great
in
call.
Neil, who's been waiting patiently. Neil, what is on for you this season? Both of them, Champions League and Premier League.
I think the Champions League is what I want, just like the other fan just said, is definitely. And I think that the greatest chance we've got of that is because we're going to go into it seemingly with the least pedigree of the remaining 8 sides, with the exception perhaps PSV or Dortmund, in it. And I think that's going to play into our advantage, because everyone's going to take us quite for granted, whereas actually we're not the worst team by far. I think we're probably the second best team to Man City in it. And I just think it's going to really come to, Real Madrid are not going to defend, their fans are not going to accept them defending at home to us. Porto was possibly the worst draw we could have got in the last round, because they sat deep and they knew how to play. And now I think this is going to be the big advantage for us, is that we play Real Madrid, we play Bayern Munich. They're going to come onto us because their fans are not going to accept it. They're going to say, oh, you're only playing Arsenal. And I really think that that's going to be, and it gives us a better opportunity, I think, in the Champions League, because we'd only have to play City once. And as the previous caller said, we've won the league numerous times. I've been very lucky to see that. But, I was in Paris, and it was possibly the worst day ever. We lost there that evening. So it's something that we need to win as London's biggest club. But Chelsea have got 2 Champions Leagues on us, and they throw it at us all the time, and that's what we need.
Do you think your last caller had any validity in the fact that they are quite reliant on the same 11 or 12 players at the moment, and therefore having that intensity in those big games you've got coming up in the Premier League, big games now in the quarterfinals? Do you think that could be problematic?
I think anybody that watched last night possibly see the best left back in Europe in that Wandel, and he'll definitely be back in the England league. I think this team will buy him. And Saka has never been so ineffective over 2 games.
Well, do you know what? Actually, I'll tell you something on Wendell. He's actually 30 years old. He's not their first choice left back. That's how amazing his performance was against Saka.
Okay.
But so he's actually not their first choice left back, would you believe? But,
Neil, I wouldn't want to mention it to you, but I will. There's a strong probability you'll win nothing. But you're not thinking like that this morning. How would you view that, actually, if that is the outcome?
No, I still think we're on a progression upwards. And, as Simon pointed out, it was hard enough to retain the possession to the level we're at from last year. As we see Newcastle fall away, we see teams fall away. We're here to stay. And we're going to be even stronger next season, and that's what Arteta's built. And so, if we don't win anything this year, there's always next year.
Love that,
Neil. We're going to be around for a while.
Love that,
I agree
Neil.
with you.
I love that, Simon. We are here to stay. That's all right, isn't it? That's the way they should look at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We will see, though.
We shall see.
Well, I think the aim for any club is to become competitive at the top table every season.
Yes.
Now, if you're always there or thereabouts, a bit like City have been in the Champions
You
League
give yourself a
final,
chance.
semi-final, you're going to get over the line. If Arsenal lost the league this year by a point and got beaten in the final of the Champions League, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
It would feel like it.
Right.
But they're there. And if you keep putting yourself there, you will get over the line.
Excellent. Excellent stuff.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talksport app and on your smart speaker. talksport.
Okay, let's discuss Arsenal right now then on the football show. James, let's come to you. David Raya, I guess, is the only place to start. The hero of the shootout. He came back into the team. Did he seize this opportunity with both gloves?
He absolutely did. He became the first goalkeeper to make at least 2 saves in the Champions League shootout since Petr Cech for Chelsea in the final in 2012. But incredibly, last night was the first Champions League match to go to a penalty shootout since 2016. That final between Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid. Cristiano Ronaldo scoring the goal to seal the trophy for Real. And last night's showing certainly seems to have settled any lingering arguments about Mikel Arteta's judgment and Raya's status as Arsenal's first choice goalkeeper. It was a shaky start, but last night he certainly proved his worth.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate, especially if you're the keeper that's missing out, I guess, and what was said to you at the time. I wonder what was, but is this justification for Arteta making Raya number 1 at the club this season?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was a pretty massive night for Arsenal, wasn't it? I mean, they hadn't made the quarter-final stage in their last 7 attempts. They'd lost their last 5, last 16 ties at home in the competition, and it came down to penalties. It was a really nervy game. I thought Porto were particularly impressive, to be honest. There wasn't a lot between them. They were well organised. They carried a threat, and actually possession was actually very even through the game too, so it wasn't just a deep block. But David Raya pulling out 2 massive penalty saves. The first from Wendell, who I thought was probably Porto's best player, really kept Bukayo Saka quiet. And then that one from Galeno, who scored that goal that gave Porto the advantage going into this. Huge moment for David Raya, who has had his difficulties in the league this season. But I think in this recent run of 8 wins in a row in the Premier League, and of course last night, David Raya has more than proven his worth as Arsenal's number 1.
Yeah, I think he's ended the debate, really, hasn't he? I mean, first of all, he's completely changed the way they're able to play with his distribution, his composure in possession. He's enabled them to really dominate opponents in a way they maybe couldn't before to that level. And then you see his calmness in and out of possession. Mikel Arteta spoke about it in his press conference after the game last night. I was in there listening to him talking, and And that is the key difference, I think, between him and Ramsdale. As goalkeepers, maybe there isn't a huge amount between them, but in terms of temperament, in terms of the calmness Raya transmits, then there is a big difference. And we saw him keep his composure. We saw him pull off a big save in normal time from Evan Nielsen. And then he stepped up in the penalties and made vital saves then as well. So yeah, a night of vindication for Mikel Arteta, and a big moment for Raya that maybe he hadn't had yet at Arsenal. So a crucial night for him, I think.
Okay, but what does all this mean for Aaron Ramsdale? Because we're going to talk about Euro squads a little later on in the show, and if things aren't looking good for him at the moment, does he have to leave?
It probably does feel that way. I mean, he's played less than 200 minutes since the start of December. He obviously came in at the weekend to play against Brentford with David Raya ineligible to play against the club that currently still owns him. Of course, he's still on loan there at Arsenal and made that huge mistake. He did actually respond well in that game. I think it's worth pointing out that he made that great save from Ivan Toney's half volley. There was a great save low down to a Nathan Collins header as well. But he's just not getting the game time, and he's a fiercely ambitious player. You know, he's come through a lot of difficulty in his career in terms of rejection. When he was younger, he's had those relegations with Sheffield United and Bournemouth, established himself as Arsenal's #1, and then has had this setback. So it feels like, with interest in him in January from a number of clubs, that he probably will be sold this summer, and Arsenal will be looking for a new #2 this summer.
Yeah, I think he's too good to be a #2 goalkeeper, isn't he? Ultimately, I think he will want to go, and I think if he does go this summer, then it's good for him that he had that game against Brentford, where he, of course, made that error, but then performed really well, as Doogie says, either side of the error, especially in the second half, making crucial saves to really help them get that result and get over the line. So if that is his final appearance, and it looks like it might be, given Arsenal are out of domestic cup competitions, and Raya is, of course, so important to the team now, then it's nice that he had that moment, and it was a good reminder of his quality, even with the error in that game.
Yeah, it's not just in goalkeeping. It feels like they have more depth in this squad compared to this time last season, James. Gabriel Martinelli injured, in comes Trossard and scores the goal. So is that a theme with this Arsenal side when we're comparing this season to last?
I think so, absolutely. Trossard levelled the tie just before half-time, courtesy of what was an incredible assist from Arsenal's captain, Martin Ødegaard, who we just heard from. And when you consider what Leandro Trossard has done so far this season, it's been remarkable what he's done in the Champions League. He's scored in his first 3 matches at home in the Champions League for Arsenal. The last time that happened was Bukayo Saka. The time before that, Alexis Sanchez, who we've just seen. And we can actually see his goal contributions this season, 11 already in all competitions this season. He's become incredibly important for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal since joining from Brighton in the January of 2023. And he's averaging a goal involvement every 122 minutes, which puts him 3rd on that list, behind Saka and just behind Gabriel Jesus as well. Crucially, he's just ahead of Gabriel Martinelli. So we wait to see what happens when the Brazilian returns from injury, because Mikel Arteta now has a real conundrum in that left wing position, but it's a good headache to have for Arsenal because they now have real quality and strength and depth in all positions.
Okay, it's not often when we kind of see a great goal like he scored and such a crucial goal, yet we're drooling over the assist. It shows how good that was from Ødegaard, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was really special. I think, the best sort of languid creators of the 21st century, the likes of Iniesta, Ozil, Zidane, they'd all be proud of that assist. It was a moment of exceptional spatial awareness, timing. The fact he's also falling over as he delivers the pass just made it even more aesthetically pleasing. And it was Trossard's only shot on the night, tucks it away really nicely. But Ødegaard, I think, was, aside from David Raya, probably Arsenal's best player. Wendell, who I already mentioned, shackled Bukayo Saka really effectively on the right wing. He struggled to really exert much influence. But it was Martin Ødegaard that was constantly probing, picking up the right positions, and nearly grabbed a winning goal, or a goal that would send them through in normal time as well, with that shot that Gabriel Jesus nearly got on the end of as well. And it's satisfying for Ødegaard because he did start the season slower than he finished last season, came in for a little bit of criticism. So to have exerted his influence in such a massive game for Arsenal felt like a big moment for him too.
It was one of those moments where you can tell instantly from the sound of the crowd that it was something special. Even before Trossard finished it, there was an acknowledgement of what an amazing piece of skill it was, and to have the composure and quality to then produce that pass as well, it was really special. And it was impressive as well because Porto had actually done a good job on him. They really had nullified him. They'd limited his influence. He'd only had 14 touches in that first half. He only made 6 successful passes, but when the moment arrived, when he needed to show that bit of quality, he produced, and that is what the big players do in those moments. And it was a lovely piece of skill to watch, wasn't it? And a huge contribution in the context of the game.
Yeah, and just how important was it for Arsenal, James, to progress given their recent record?
Well, they've not won anything yet, but it feels like Arsenal have crossed a significant psychological barrier by reaching the quarter-final stage. That's because they'd lost at the last 16 stage in each of their past 7 appearances in the Champions League. That includes some fairly humiliating nights, really, at the Emirates, including their last appearance at this stage in 2017. They were dumped out 10-2 on aggregate by Bayern Munich. And Mikel Arteta, the player, featured in 5 of these. As a manager, last night he finally ended his European curse at home. He previously managed 5 Europa League ties at the Emirates Stadium without winning any of them. So it's taken 14 years and 3 days, but Arsenal are finally back in the last 8 of the Champions League.
Oh, that's amazing, isn't it? Because there's some Arsenal fans in their mid-20s who were still in primary school the last time that happened. There's a thing. Arsenal chances of winning both... let's get greedy now. Of winning both the Premier League and the Champions League.
Incredibly difficult to do both, but, you know, you've got to be in with the shout, and they're in with the shout in both competitions. They are probably the form team in the Premier League right now. I think the Champions League will be particularly difficult because all the favourites thus far have won, and there are teams that have a superior record against Arsenal in latter stages. You know, Man City, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Barcelona. You know, they've all beaten Arsenal in big games in recent years and have more experience in latter stages of competition. You know, we talk about their last 16 record, but Arsenal haven't made the semi-finals of the Champions League since 2008-09 when Ronaldo scored a brace. So it feels like a long, long time ago that, you know, Arsenal have been at this stage of the competition. I think it'll be easier right now to focus on the Premier League, but as long as they're in Europe, they'll want to try and go for both.
Yeah, I think they'd take one of the two, wouldn't they? I don't think even the most optimistic Arsenal fan could possibly imagine a double this season.
Which would you, if you're an Arsenal fan?
Well, I think the Premier League has to be the number one, doesn't it? I mean, for Arsenal, obviously the Champions League has added significance given they've never won it, but it's a really tough decision. I mean, Premier League is kind of the bread and butter of a team like Arsenal, and that's the one that I think they'll be thinking of most closely. That's the one that best measures your kind of quality as a team, doesn't it, over the course of 38 games. But I mean, I think what they've lacked in Champions League terms is experience. You know, even the team they put out last night, a lot of those players were new to the Champions League this season, you know, making their first sort of appearances in the competition. And Man City show the importance of having that experience. You know, it took 7 seasons for Pep Guardiola to get this trophy, even though you could easily argue that Man City have been the best team in Europe for longer than a year. So I think that's something they need to build up over time, you know, and last night will help. It was almost a crash course in what the Champions League can throw at you, you know, a wily, streetwise opponent. Remember, Porto play in the Champions League every year. They know exactly what it takes in these games, you know, they know how to disrupt opposition, they know how to make life very, very difficult, and Arsenal came through that. They passed the test, a big test of character, and you know, they can dream. They're in the last 8, they're a very good team. They should be bolstered by this experience they've had against Porto. But yeah, of the two, I mean, I'd say that the Premier League has to be the priority, but you know, who knows?
19 days off for Arsenal now before that big one against Manchester City. The players, or the majority of those players, don't get that time off because they'll be joining up with their international squads. But that sort of breaking the rhythm of what Arsenal are doing as a squad, as a collective, as a group, is that a help or a hindrance?
Well, without meaning to sit on the fence, I think you can go both ways with these things. You know, Arsenal, I think if they'd lost last night on penalties, that would have been a really huge stop in their momentum. There'd be a lot of criticism. You know, they were expected to beat FC Porto, despite the fact, as Nick points out, you know, they'd had great performances against Inter Milan and Liverpool in recent years, FC Porto, so they were not easy opponents whatsoever. But Arsenal, the last time they had a break in the season, they went to Dubai. That was after their difficult festive period, and since then they've won 8 out of 8. This is slightly different because there is obviously an international break here, and a lot of their players will be involved in international duty. But what I think is quite interesting is that Martin Odegaard's playing for Norway in 2 friendlies. Norway aren't involved in the Euros. Perhaps he'll be not playing both 90 minutes in those. Gabriel and Saliba aren't necessarily first choice for France and Brazil respectively just yet. So as long as they come through injury-free, I think they can go full throttle for that game against Man City on the 31st.
It's interesting, isn't it? Before last night, I probably would have said it would be a hindrance, that it would disrupt their rhythm at a time when they really need to continue that rhythm. But then, being at the ground last night, watching the players, I mean, they really did look dead on their feet at the end of them, at the end of extra time, some of them. And I think now, you know, having come through these 2 games against Brentford and Porto and emerged with victories in both, I think it's a good time for a break. And we saw the impact of that mid-season break in Dubai. You know, I think it's 9 wins out of 10 since then. So Arsenal have shown the benefits of having that period of rest in the middle of the season, and they'll be hoping this one can have a similar effect, because obviously there is a massive game looming afterwards.
This is the Football Show. We're on a Euro 2024 countdown here at Sky Sports News. 93 days now until Scotland kick off the tournament against Germany. 95 days until England get their tournament underway against Serbia. Now, tomorrow afternoon, Gareth Southgate picks his squad for the final internationals before the summer. So we're going to take a look at some of his selection dilemmas. James, let's start with you. Let's start in goal. A lot of uncertainty as to who fills the 2 spots alongside Jordan Pickford.
Yeah, there is, in particular, that 3rd spot, because Sam Johnson, he's won back the starting jersey at Crystal Palace ahead of Dean Henderson, and he looks set to continue his role as England's number 2. Aaron Ramsdale and Henderson, they've suffered from a real lack of minutes this season, and that could open the door for Jack Butland. Really impressive season for Rangers, and Gareth Southgate confirmed last month Butland is back on the radar. He's not been called up since June 2019, but his form has been undeniable. 23 clean sheets, save percentage of 75%, much higher than his rivals, plus no errors leading to goals. You've also got James Trafford here, ever present in what has been a really struggling Burnley side, but he offers an alternative option if Southgate is looking to give the youngsters some senior tournament experience. So plenty of decent goalkeeping options there. It does look like a fight just for one spot, though.
Yeah. And well, why not Butland? I can remember the days when the spine of an English team came out of Rangers, it seemed to be. But then you got Trafford, and the kind of feeling is, why not, if you're going to bring a keeper who's most likely not going to play, why not bring one for the future and give them that experience going forward?
I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? I think James Trafford is so young that he will probably get a chance for his experience at a time when he's playing better and he's playing for a team that aren't struggling so much. I think it's only right to recognise Jack Butland. I mean, he has been in squads for big tournaments before as well. He went to Euro 2012, he went to the World Cup in 2018, although he didn't feature in either tournament. So he has been around England camps, and the fact that he's been picked for multiple tournaments suggests that he's a reasonably good tourist as well. And I think his form for Rangers probably deserves, respect. He's got the best save percentage in the whole of the Scottish League. Rangers are flying. Up until recently, they hadn't lost a game in a number of games, up until that Motherwell result, and Philippe Clement's done an excellent job there, and Jack Butland's been central to that. So I'd like to see him rewarded. It feels like sometimes we're too Premier League-centric with some of our England selections.
Yeah, I think Jack Butland's has got a very strong case, hasn't he? I mean, I think the problem for Aaron Ramsdale, of course, is the lack of minutes, and I think Sam Johnston's in a great position now. You're probably looking at the options now thinking he's the number 2. I think it's telling that he started in that friendly against Australia in October, even when Ramsdale was available and in the squad for that game. So yeah, I think there is an opening for the 3rd spot. I mean, the reality is you're very unlikely to play, aren't you, in that role at a major tournament, but you don't really want to be relying on someone who hasn't played in 6 months potentially. Ramsdale could potentially be going into summer having only started 2 games since the turn of the year. So yeah, Jack Butland has a great chance. He started all but 1 of Rangers games in all competition. He's looked very, very sharp. So he's got to have a good claim to get that place.
Yeah, so those are the other options. Obviously, Jordan Pickford not on there because he's kind of going, isn't he? The real issues, I suppose, come in defence. Fair to say John Stones a shoe-in. Let's keep fingers crossed that he stays fit. However, there are injuries. Mark Gay, Harry Maguire being a doubt. So, chance for others to really stake a claim and shine here, is there, James?
There is, and it means Gareth Southgate will have to put out a makeshift defence in these upcoming friendlies. So there will be a chance for players to stake their claim. Now, based on previous squads, we would expect Fikayo Tomori to be named tomorrow. He's just returned following a hamstring injury. Ezri Konsa likely to be included, considering the season he's had so far for Aston Villa. He received his first call-up earlier on this season. Now, Lewis Dunk, he'll hope to benefit from injuries in the centre-back area, but Brighton haven't been watertight this season, have they? Just 6 clean sheets in all competitions, and look at that here, 4 errors leading to goals. A lot of excitement, a lot of noise around Jared Branthwaite at the moment. He's excelled this season for an Everton side battling for survival. The youngest option here, just 21. Finally, Eric Dyer. We know he's performed for England in the past, ending their penalty shootout hoodoo in 2018, but he's got a good chance of being involved tomorrow following his move to Bayern Munich. Now, that would be some turnaround for a player completely out of favour at Tottenham earlier on this season.
OK, so I'm just processing all James has told us. So, OK, what jumps out at you then?
I think, different to the goalkeepers, you know, there's the potential that one of these names could start, really. With Maguire's injury issues, with Mark Gehi's injury issues, we don't have that much depth at centre-back. You know, Jordan Pickford has been so assured for England. It's been a slightly different matter at centre-back. I think the player who's been in the best form out of those players is Jared Branthwaite, but then he has played for a team that has struggled in Everton. They faced a lot of pressure. He has excelled. It would be a slightly different job that he played at England. I think the fact that Maguire often plays on the left-hand side for England and did for United before Ten Hag switched him to the other side, and Jared Branthwaite being left-footed, that does potentially play in his favour. Ezri Konsa has probably had the best season out of the rest of them. I think Fikayo Tomori has had a number of injury issues at AC Milan, and Lewis Dunk has had, you know, a slightly strange season by his standards. A number of errors leading to goals, as James points out. Particularly struggled in some of the Europa League ties early on for Brighton. There was that performance away in Marseille, which wasn't particularly impressive. So I feel like Jared Branthwaite, on the basis of form and his injury record, probably deserves a call-up alongside Ezri Konsa.
It's dire for England. Or is it? That's an interesting name on there.
Very interesting, yeah. I was surprised to see him make the cut, actually, given what we saw from him earlier in the season. But as James says, he's someone who has performed for England in the past. He's someone who Southgate likes, but I'd be surprised if he's in. I like Doogie, Branthwaite is the name that jumps out to me. I think Doogie mentioned Everton have obviously had a difficult season, but defensively they've been pretty good, haven't they? Only 39 goals conceded, one of the best defensive records in the league, and Branthwaite's been a big part of that. Excellent defensively, but also very calm, very composed on the ball. I'm sure Southgate is looking at that and thinking he would potentially fit into his way of playing. You know, there have been a couple of instances recently where he's almost dribbled away from attackers inside the box, you know, playing for Everton. So I think he's got that confidence and that composure. He's got that consistency as well. You know, he's played the entire season without any injury interruptions, which is more than can be said for some of the options we're looking at. So I think Branthwaite is someone who's definitely worth a look in these friendlies and potentially at the tournament as well.
Yeah, Levi Colwell's another interesting option because he can play a centre-half and full-back as well, but he's picked up an injury at the moment. And it seems not long ago where we were talking about 74 full-backs trying to get into the England squad. That's an exaggeration. Not quite the same now, especially at right-back. But overall, Luke Shaw, Ben Chilwell, Reece James, Kieran Trippier, Trent Alexander-Arnold, all injured. Kyle Walker's going to get in there, so who else?
Yeah, well, defence really is that area where Southgate will be scratching his head when he looks at the options he's got. It's really hard to argue against Joe Gomez, considering what he's offered this season for Liverpool. Won the last of his 11 international caps back in 2020, but he's become hugely important to Liverpool this season. Right back, centre back, left back, also playing in midfield to help cover the club's injury crisis. Ben White continues to show his class at right back for Arsenal, assists and goals, yet to receive a recall after leaving the World Cup in Qatar due to personal reasons. But form alone, he should be in that squad. Now, in terms of the young options here, we've got Tino Livramento. He's got a decent chance of being included. Played on both flanks this season, really excelling, having spent a year on the sidelines with injury prior to this season. And Rico Lewis may benefit from England's injury problems in the fullback area. Made his England debut in November, but it's worth noting 21 appearances there. He's not featured in the Premier League since January. So it does feel like defence is the real area of concern for Gareth Southgate. He's not going to have his best options available for him in what is England's last international camp before the summer.
Yeah, the big tick for Livramento was, despite the defeat, I guess, on Monday, he had a very good game at Stamford Bridge, and Gareth Southgate was watching on at that moment, so he recorded his eye. The really interesting one there is Ben White, is it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's having a brilliant season, isn't he? And you have to remember how much he is doing and how much he's bringing to that role he's playing for Arsenal. You know, I went down to London Colney to interview him in October, and he talked about the complexity of the role he's playing under Arteta. You know, he said a fullback under Arteta needs to be a fullback, but also a centre-back, a winger, a number 10. Such are the demands that he places on you, and he's doing all of that. You know, he's stepping into midfield, he's going on the outside, he's producing in the final third, he's excelling defensively as well. Of course, he's a centre-back, so he can drop into that back line as a centre-back if needed. So he ticks so many boxes. He's got the versatility. I guess the question is compatibility with Southgate and the current staff. Is there work to be done there to reopen the door to him? We'll see about that. The other thing for Southgate to consider, of course, is the fact that he does have good options at right back already with Trippier, with Trent Alexander-Arnold, with Kyle Walker. So it's an interesting one. I think in terms of performances this season, he merits a place in the squad, Ben White, but whether he gets the call-up is another question.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Ben White. I mean, of the other names that were on the board there, I think Joe Gomez definitely deserves to play. I think Liverpool have only conceded 2 more goals than Arsenal this year. I think with the injuries they've had at the back, Joe Gomez has had to feature at left back, at right back, and at centre back. And I think he's only appeared in a Premier League season more often in the 1920 season when Liverpool won the league. Other name to mention, potentially Rico Lewis. I know he hasn't featured a lot in the Premier League, but he's actually been really crucial to City in the Champions League. He's featured in 7 of their 8 Champions League games. He started 6. He's provided 3 assists in that time. Only Harry Kane and Bellingham have provided more in the entire competition. So it feels like Pep Guardiola really trusts Rico Lewis in those big moments. I think that's partly down to the fact that John Stones has had his injury issues, and Rico Lewis can do that right back central midfield hybrid role. But he does feel like one for the future. So I wonder whether, with all these injuries amongst our fullbacks, Rico Lewis will get another call-up.
Right, let's talk about the midfield. We're talking about the goalkeepers, let's talk about the defence, let's get to the midfield. And a lot of people, fingers crossed, or supporting Kobbie Mainoo to be included tomorrow. What do the stats say, and what options has he got in midfield?
Well, this is an area which is really interesting because Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham are dead certs to start, you'd think. There's debate about who else could feature in the centre of the park. Now, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, he's impressed at AC Milan since making the move to Italy in the summer. 8 goals this season in all competitions. As has fellow former Chelsea midfielder Ross Barkley, really reignited his career under Rob Edwards at Luton, laid on 5 assists already this season. Now, you mentioned Kobbie Mainoo. He's quickly become one of the first names on Erik ten Hag's team sheet. Perhaps he could be the perfect foil for Bellingham and Rice, who really is excelling at the moment in advanced areas. The reason why these 3 have become options is because of the lack of meaningful player minutes from these 2. 2 of Southgate's favourites in Calvin Phillips and Jordan Henderson. Now, Phillips moved to West Ham in January for playing time. Things haven't really worked out so far on the pitch. Replaced at half-time against Burnley at the weekend. A number of errors so far and a red card already his time in East London. Now, Henderson, he's featured 7 times for Ajax so far, so we've not included the appearances in the Saudi Pro League here. He'll hope that the move to the Dutch Giants will be enough to keep him in the England picture. So will Southgate stick to those he's been loyal to in recent seasons despite their lack of minutes, or perhaps we look for one of these left field choices?
Yeah. OK, where does he go? The exuberance of youth or the tried and tested?
I think the exuberance of youth. I mean, I think we are talking about maybe the 5th or 6th midfield slot, because I think if Trent Alexander-Arnold is fit, he'll be picked as a midfielder. I think Conor Gallagher's got a good chance of going ahead of all the names mentioned as well. But I think he probably needs, with Jude Bellingham being such an amazing attacking force this season, he probably needs that more defensive-minded midfielder. I think in a dream world, it probably would be Calvin Phillips. You know, he's been England Player of the Year beforehand, excelled at Euro 2020, but his form for West Ham, his lack of minutes at Man City before that, probably doesn't warrant selection right now. So I go with Kobbie Mainoo, who's got the more defensive-minded presence out of Loftus-Cheek and Barkley, and I think his performances so far this season suggest he's not just one for the future. He could be used off the bench in the tournament.
OK, we've got to crack on because we've got to get to the forwards here. I think Harry Kane's going. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, I think Harry Kane's already booked his seat in first class for that flight to Germany. Well, he's already there, isn't he? But there's one man who's gone above and beyond to stake his claim to be the number 2 or potentially start alongside Kane. Ollie Watkins, 21 goals, 10 assists in all competitions this season. You have to assume that he's safe and he's got a spot on the plane. And then 2 other out-and-out strikers here, Dominic Solanke and Ivan Toney. Solanke enjoying his best Premier League goal-scoring campaign of his career. Hugely impressive at Bournemouth this season, 16 goals in all competitions. On the other hand, Ivan Toney missed a huge portion of this season due to suspension. He has scored 4 times since making his return in January. There's a feeling, despite his lack of minutes, Toney is ahead of Solanke in the pecking order. The England manager spoke in glowing terms about Toney last year following his betting ban and said that would not impact on a possible call-up this summer.
Yeah, we will find out at 2 o'clock tomorrow, but where do you go?
Well, I think it's going to be one of those options. I don't think there's room for more than one. I think Ollie Watkins is ahead at the moment, and Rashford will probably be the other supplementary striker. He's been inconsistent for Manchester United this season, of course, but if you look at his England record, fantastic at the World Cup from the bench, wasn't he? And also scored in the 3-1 win over Italy, which clinched the place at the Euros. So Rashford, reliable at international level, he can be another striking option. And Watkins, I think, is probably ahead of the other 2 options at the moment.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Dom Solanke's probably shown enough consistency to be that 3rd choice, but Watkins.
OK, there we go. We got there in the end. You'll find out tomorrow at 2. Stay with us on the football show, though. Plenty more to come next.
First and foremost, Annie, thanks so much for joining us here on Astro Supersport. We're going to jump straight into it, all right? Let's reflect back at the victory at Wembley recently. I recall your first trophy with Liverpool wasn't that long into your time there. I think it was your 2nd season. And now you're winning a trophy when you're one of the senior players, let's put it that way. Not saying you're old by any means, you're not even 30. But is that feeling a bit different if you think back to your first trophy versus now being one of the sort of guiding members of the squad?
Yeah, I think you never get bored of winning. I think that feeling's always there. When you're in football, you always want to win trophies and things, and I think the feeling when you know you've done that is still the same from my first until whenever my last is. And yeah, but obviously your role within has probably changed. I was still a kind of younger player back then, and still had a lot of stuff ahead of me. But now obviously I'm a more senior player, like you said, and trying to look after the younger players and trying to help them. So of course your role changes, but that that feeling of winning never kind of leaves you.
Does it make you feel a little bit happy on the inside, maybe a bit of a heartwarming sort of feeling when you look at these kids winning as well? I mean, we've seen the quotes around Klopp's kids. That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it gives you a massive sense of pride. You see them working hard and training every single day. You try and help them as much as you can. You give them advice. You give them encouragement as well. And I think then when you see, that come in a big stage like Wembley in front of 90,000 fans, and the young lads not caring about the surroundings, they just want to play football, then it gives you a sense of pride. I think it gave the coaches and the manager a sense of pride, but I think also the experienced lads, I think we all sat back and thought, okay, these lads are ready to step up, and I think they showed that, and I think they've showed that in the other games as well. And with the amount of injuries we've got just now, I think we need that. And like I says, the results we've had over the last 4 or 5 weeks wouldn't have been possible without these lads. So credit has to go to them, credit has to go to the academy for getting them ready like this, and we hopefully that continues, because we'll need them from now to the end of the season as well.
Does it make you feel a little bit old sometimes, in the sense whereby these kids, they're Gen Z, right? So their sense of humor and what they get is just a little bit different, the slang that they use or what they see on TikTok. Do you watch these kids and think sometimes, I don't understand some of the things that you guys are joking about in the dressing room?
Yeah, it keeps you young, that's for sure. But that's the beauty of football. That's why, I think we all love football. That, when I was a young lad, some of my closest friends were, in their 30s and things like that. And age in football doesn't really matter within a changing room. You all just get on together. You get, you join in the banter in the best way possible. And of course, I'm a bit older now, a bit more mature than some of the young lads, but you can still be silly.
Do you do the TikToks with them?
No, definitely not. No, you'll definitely never see me on a TikTok, that's for sure.
Right then. But of course, we're reflecting back again all throughout the years. How has the club in itself, the culture, how has it changed throughout the years?
Yeah, look, there's been a lot of change, obviously within the squad. Obviously, the coaching staff and the manager hasn't changed in a long time, but the squad has, especially last summer there, was the biggest change we've had. A lot of players left and a lot of, a good few players came in. So it's always about adapting, it's always about evolving, it's always about, trying to get the best team on the pitch, and it's just about being a part of that. You kind of dip into it. There's probably, since I came to the club to now, there's more expectation on us because we've shown that we can, win the Premier League. We've shown that we can win the Champions League. When before I came, that was, it was a long time ago that we'd kind of competed for these things. So the expectation's there, but I think when you play with a big club like Liverpool, the expectation's always there to win. It's just that we've been lucky enough that we've got a squad that has been able to produce that.
Your commentary team for Atletico against Inter. The second leg on the last night of the round of 16 is the European football journalist Kevin Hatchard alongside John Bradley.
Are you ready? You better strap yourselves in, because this between Atletico Madrid and Inter is going to be a game of drama, a game of intrigue, and ultimately it's going to be one heck of a battle out there. It really is.
It will, John, because, there's so much riding on this. Inter know they're well clear in Serie A, so they've got a genuine opportunity to prioritise this competition. For Atleti, they're battling to be in this competition next season. They went out of the Copa del Rey. This means so much to them, so we should see passion and plenty of quality as well.
Our referee gets us underway, Simon Marciniak. More on him in a moment or two, but it's Atleti who make the first play downfield as the ball is chipped forward towards Griezmann. Remember, Antoine Griezmann fit enough to start tonight after being injured in the first game, and Axel Witsel, as we mentioned before kick-off, now at the heart of this Atleti defence. So used to him being a box-to-box midfielder. First time I saw him in this competition was a Champions League qualifier for Standard Liège some 16 years ago. He's aged somewhat since then, has stayed the same though, and he's still providing that quality that he's always shown throughout his career in Belgium, in Russia, in Germany, and of course now in Spain. There's a ball out towards that left-hand side where it's cleared away by Fede Di Marco, and Atleti looking to get off to a fast start here, a throw-in level with the edge of the penalty area over on the right-hand side as they try to make some ground and make quick impression, but they don't come anything from that. It goes straight out of play, and Di Marco himself will take a throw in and then clear away right-footed. There's a ricochet onto the ball though, and it's going to come out towards the left-hand side where the ball's across the penalty area, comes back out towards Samuel Lino, but it's cleared away by that rock-solid Inter back three. Needed to be as well. It could have been an all stations alert for a moment. Lino with the cross, arriving at the far post just a little too high as the ball goes up and behind. But a good start for Atletico.
Yeah, and it all comes actually from Federico Di Marco. His clearance is charged down. It runs in the end for Lino on the edge of the area. I wondered if he might hit it first time, but he didn't want to go for it left-footed. And then we saw how important he can be on that left-hand side, cutting in on his right. He didn't quite get the cross right, a little too high, but he was really dangerous in that first leg. And I wonder if that's why Dumfries has come in on that right-hand side. Benjamin Paval's got a really important job as well, backing up Dumfries on that right-hand side.
Marcos Llorente, who produced a stunning performance in this round a couple of years ago to take down Liverpool at Anfield with some vital goals. Here he is now with possession as Atleti making ground on the right-hand side. But again, Dimarco gets across and makes an important challenge, and the ball will ricochet away and out of play off Alvaro Morata.
There has been a major early chance in tonight's other match between Dortmund and PSV, Richard Connolly.
Falling for one of Dortmund's two Dutchmen, but not the one we were perhaps expecting. It was Ian Maatsen, the left fullback on loan from Chelsea, in the penalty box. A defensive clearance ricocheted kindly to him. He really only had the goalkeeper to beat from about 12 metres. Fierce shot, tipped over the crossbar by Walter Benitez, the Argentinian goalkeeper of PSV, and it remains Dortmund 0, PSV 0, but bright start from the home team.
1-1 on aggregates in that clash. Lautaro Martinez looks like he's got a bit of a bang, John Bradley.
Yeah, he's quite lucky because the ball was thundered at him. Had it hit him flush in the face, it would have been really nasty. It ricocheted off his hand into his face, which would have taken a little bit of the sting out of the situation. As it is a free kick here to Atletico, who have started this game really well. 3.5 minutes gone, and they have a free kick just to the right of the centre circle, 10 metres or so inside the Inter half, as it's chipped forward right-footed towards the edge of the penalty. A Savage with the header, but it's straight forward for Sommer, who takes the ball on the bounce from another of these veterans in this Atleti team. So many of them.
It's a nice start, though. I just wonder if Savage could have headed that back the way it came, actually. He had players coming in at that far post if he'd been able to guide it there, but he went for goal and he was a long way out. But it's been a good, intense start from Atletico, making it difficult for Inter to play out so far, and Inter now just trying to get a feel for the ball and play their way into this second leg.
I think what's intriguing as well, Kevin, is so many times down the 13 years that we've seen this Atleti team under Diego Simeone is that they would be very strong on the counter-attack. They would sit back and let the opposition have the ball. Tonight, very quick out of the traps, really looking to press, really looking to push forward.
And I think you have to do that against Inter because they're too good to just sit back and hope that they won't be able to pick a way through.
Well, here they come again with Samuel Lino down the left-hand side, and he's charging away from two defenders. He's inside the penalty, shoots left footed. What a wonderful save by Sommer. Fully extended away to his left-hand side. It's a huge hand from the Inter goalkeeper to deny Lino what would have been a brilliant individual goal.
Well, he was Atletico's best player in the first leg, and already he's made a bit of a difference this game. He strikes it low and hard across the keeper, as you're always taught to do as a player, but that is a brilliant save from Sommer.
Well, they're going to go long with a throw here into the penalty area towards the right on the edge of the near post. It's going to come in again low, but there's no air on that, and Lautaro Martinez will try and bring the ball away. Although Atleti again pressing really high and all hunting the ball in packs, and they've managed to win it as well. Although now it will break towards Thuram, who they'll chain in midfield, and then another brilliant challenge to win the ball back. They're up for this, or Atleti really looking to make an impact early on. Ball is drilled forward. There's a little bit too much adrenaline in that one.
We've had the opening goal of tonight in the Champions League.
Fulkrug tried to collect. Till trying to get back in for PSV. Chance here for the shot from the edge, and it's there! Jadon Sancho has scored for Dortmund. A low shot, beautifully placed right into the corner. And only 3 minutes in, it's the dream start for Dortmund. Sancho delivers. It's Dortmund 1, PSV 0.
2-1 to Dortmund on aggregate as things stand. They are joining those 6 clubs already through to the quarterfinals of this season's Champions League. 0-0 in Madrid, but what a start, John Bradley.
Well, Atletico Madrid have come out of the trap so quickly here, and Inter are just trying to stay with them. They're having to defend in numbers, although there is a free kick and a foul here which will give them some respite. But it's been a tricky start for the side that leads this tie, but a foul will give them chance just to relax a little. Bastoni it was who was caught by Koke. That was a brilliant save. We're just seeing it again from the replay. to deny Lino by Sommer. It was a wonderfully strong left hand, because it wasn't the easiest save in the world, as he had to fully extend himself, get down so quickly to his left.
He's always been brilliant at that, Sommer. His reflexes have always been outstanding. He's made saves like that time and time again down the years. And he really has been outstanding for Inter. They wondered how they'd be able to replace Andre Onana, but he has been so calm, so consistent. It's been excellent from him. And I think they're going to need him tonight. They're going to need that calm, because Atleti are playing with real intensity.
Here they come again, moving up towards halfway, and again they're moving the ball with such ease. Hermoso has it and moves it to the right-hand side. Rodrigo De Paul helps it on towards Molina, and now playing it in towards Savic, who will check inside, then come back outside and move down that right-hand side. Ball chipped into the penalty area, where Lino will chase. He will retrieve the ball by the touchline on the left-hand side. A little step over one way, then goes the other, and drives it against the legs of Denzel Dumfries, who stood up well to him. And just to emphasise everything that Kevin's been saying about why Denzel Dumfries is playing.
Yeah, and he's still asking the question. He felt that he was fouled, and he was arguing with the referee all the way through that piece of play. But he did a good job there. It's going to be a fascinating battle, that between him and Samuel Lino, and Lino has been winning it so far.
Well, Mario Hermoso with a long throw again. Into the penalty area it goes. It might come back out towards the Atleti defender. Now it's a nice touch by Martinez on the edge of his penalty area, but the throw-in will probably go against him here. And again, Atleti are in a hurry. Hermoso down towards Lino, who tries to cross left-footed, and once again Denzel Dumfries is in the way. It is a really good start. 9 minutes gone, and it's been all Atletico so far. Inter have hardly been out of their own half. Another set piece, another opportunity. Hermoso about 10-15 metres from the corner flag, throws it now long up towards the near post, where it's met really well. The initial header was by Pavard, and then Martinez and Thuram were combining to try and bring the ball away, and they've done really nicely to come away over midfield. They've got a man over as well. Had they been able to find Dimarco, it was a really good piece of play initially by Marcos Thuram, as the ball bounced inside his own area to move away with the ball. Had he been able to switch the play to Fede Dimarco, they would have been in.
Yeah, it took too long, and I think he realises, because if he played it a few seconds before he got caught, there was so much space. He could have actually played it through to Lautaro Martinez through the centre, and he had that switch to the left as well. He did brilliantly initially, just to surge into space. Really good skill from Thuram, and that's what he can give you. He is a centre-forward these days. He was switched to being a centre-forward last season by Daniel Farke at Borussia Mönchengladbach, and he's really thrived since that, but he still has those wingers attributes as well that he had at his previous clubs as well. So he gives you that skill set, that ability in wide areas to drive forward, as well as being a threat through the centre.
Yeah, he said recently how much he'd learned from Alexis Sanchez as well, who of course made that similar move from being a wide player to a more central player, and how much he's been watching him and looking to him in training and talking to him about adapting to the different roles and the different jobs that you have to do in football. And of course Alexis Sanchez on the bench tonight, and at the age of 35, the grand old stage. And no Marko Arnautovic though, the other veteran of course in reserve at the age of 34 after scoring in the first leg. He's unavailable tonight, so they don't have that option to bring him off the bench. So even more responsibility on Thuram. You say responsibility on Lisandro Martinez, but he thrives on it and revels in pressure, and leading this team now and leading this Inter club, as we say, so strong. 13 straight wins in all competitions, as Jan Sommer plays the ball out, and they will try to play their way through. Just a sense now that Inter are going to start to try and play their way into the game, but they give it away in midfield, and it's very quickly moved on and very nicely done as Hermoso moves it through midfield. And he has been getting into some very, very advanced positions from his role as one of 3 centre-backs so far. Very noticeable, that.
Yeah, and he's always been good at that, Hermoso. Very, very good on the ball. Able to whip that ball into the penalty area when he gets into those half spaces, but he hasn't quite made best use of it yet.
Well, we heard that Borussia Dortmund were 1-0 up against PSV thanks to Jadon Sancho's goal. Richard Connolly, how are things happening since that moment? Is it still all Borussia Dortmund?
Yes, it is broadly, Chris. I mean, it's noisy, it's raucous, and that means PSV have not quietened the crowd at all. The goal from Sancho came down the left. Martsen got in. They didn't clear the cross, and it was Sancho who placed a brilliant shot, wrong-footed the goalkeeper.
Well, here's a counter-attack with Dumfries running away, and his low shot is saved twice by Oblak, once away to his right, once straight at him. What an opportunity for Dumfries, who had a clear run through midfield onto goal. It was a beautiful pick out to play him in on the inside right channel, ran into the penalty area, shot across the goalkeeper, and just like Sommer a little earlier, really good stop by Jan Oblak.
And that's what Inter have the capability of doing, to play through the Atletico press, really hit them in transition. That's what they're able to do there. Dumfries, of course, so attack-minded. I think Lautaro Martinez wanted the ball slipped to him, but he was entitled to go for goal, Dumfries, and it's a good save by Oblak, not once but twice.
Inter are in this game now after weathering an early storm from Atleti. 13.5 minutes played. Atletico Madrid 0, Inter 0 in this beautifully poised round of 16 game in the UEFA Champions League. The last night of it before we all head off to find out who's playing who in the last 8, and there will be some titanic tussles and mouth-watering ties to look forward to. But first, we've got 2 really big games going on this evening in the UEFA Champions League. And Sommer, just on the edge of his penalty area, plays it up towards Martinez, who loses out to Savic. Played on by Rodrigo de Paul, but his ball won't find the shirt of Morata. Now they come again, and Morata right-hand side across the face of goal, and there's no one there to turn it home. It's retrieved by Griezmann on the left-hand side. He crosses, beaten away by Sommer, and Inter will try to clear. That was a huge moment, and Mosso now trying to break inside the penalty area, but there was a foul by Lino on Barella, and it's a free kick. Wow, what a start.
And what kicks that off is Savic realising that the ball's going into Martinez's feet, and he's aggressive and he's proactive, and he goes and wins it. And then they're able to turn that into a decent attack. Rodrigo de Paul, it's the right ball out to Morata, but Morata's the man you'd want to be playing that cross to, and because he plays the ball across, there's nobody coming in at that far post, and Griezmann just got there a little too late. But this game's starting to warm up, and Inter are in a battle here, there's no doubt about it. They've not been able to find their rhythm yet. I do feel they need to get Çalhanoğlu on the ball a little bit more. He's the one that can really make them tick. He's the one with the passing range that can start to pick up a few pockets of space in the Atleti half.
Well, at the moment, they just can't get the midfielders in possession of the ball because it's been eaten up so quickly by the press that we're seeing from Atleti, working so hard to win the ball as soon as it goes into midfield. Here's Mkhitaryan, who has it just on the edge of the centre circle, now moving forward with the right foot. There's a ball that's slipped in beautifully towards the edge of the penalty area. Thuram with a lovely little flick looking for Martinez. It's very, very well cleared by Stefan Savic. It needed to be as well. And now the ball is brought away. They're appealing for a free kick that he's not given. Morata, he's got plenty of traffic around him, and Griezmann with not much to hit, only hits Jan Sommer.
Yeah, I think he just slices it. He's trying to play that switch across to the right wing, and he just catches it, cuts across the ball, and it goes towards Sommer. But I think Simone Inzaghi would have known this was coming. He would have known his team would have to suffer for various spells. He would have known Atleti would have come flying at them. Jan Sommer's done well when he's been called upon so far. And what Inter have created is a threat on the counter, and I think that will please their coach Inzaghi so far.
Griezmann left-hand side, he's showing no adverse effects of the injury that forced him off in the first game. We got the impression from Diego Simeone yesterday that there is no concern whatsoever about his fitness, that they were more than happy. Here they come again with Koke through the inside right channel, slip forward looking for Morata. Is one of those balls though that was so hard to pull off, and Sommer very quickly off his line to get there before Morata, who would have been offside.
The idea was nice, just the timing of the run wasn't quite there, and as you say,
it's a heck of
little bit too much. Yeah,
heck of a difficult ball to pull off, especially with the back three. Stefan de Vrij was very, very deep.
But I think what we're seeing here is the Atletico we know when they're at home. When they're at the Metropolitano, they've been much more consistent, much more dangerous. They found it really difficult to get this kind of performance going away from home. But here they are very, very dangerous, and Inter are not getting a moment to breathe when they're in possession.
Well, here's the ball on the right-hand side. Rodrigo de Paul won't get that, though, and it's going to come to Martinez inside the centre circle. Now, everything's to his left. He's waiting for support to his right. The ball from Barella, but it won't find the charging Mkhitaryan from midfield. Here they come again, and the strike is by Martinez, deflected, makes it awkward for Oblak, who backpedaling towards his goal, just make sure that between him and the crossbar the ball doesn't cross the line. It didn't have great pace on it. What it had was horrible spin and a really awkward loop as well. So it's good goalkeeping by Jan Oblak.
I think he's done really well there. He's moved his feet, he's kept his eye on the ball. But again, it was great play from Inter, because Barella lost it initially, then had the wherewithal to win it back and start off the move again.
Well, here come Atleti again now moving forward. I saw a brilliant line about Jan Oblak yesterday, which simply said, how is Jan Oblak only 31? He's been one of the best goalkeepers in the world seemingly for 20 years.
I mean, well over 400 games for Atletico. It's an amazing body of work.
I mean, and so dedicated and committed. There have been plenty of clubs who have probably tried to tempt Atleti to sell him and him to leave as well, but the relationship between them is so strong. And you know, it's funny that obviously now while still so respected across European and world football, there is that thing that he doesn't seem to get as many mentions, I think, as he did. But maybe that's because they haven't got to the latter stages of the competition in the last couple of years that we are so used to seeing them. 3 goals in the last 8 knockout ties in this competition for Atleti, by the way, which is clearly what you're seeing them trying to reverse tonight.
I think there have been spells where he's been the best goalkeeper in the world.
Absolutely.
I think that would be a hard thing to deny, but I think you look now, there are so many elite goalkeepers now. Ederson's obviously been brilliant at Manchester City. Alisson has been outstanding for Liverpool. Marc-Andre ter Stegen last season was brilliant. We've seen Thibaut Courtois pull off so many heroics in this competition specifically. So he's got some good company, but he is right up there, make no mistake. He's an elite goalkeeper and has been for a long time.
Well, it's 0-0 here. We've played 20 minutes in the Metropolitano in Madrid. And, of course, it's 1-0 to Inter on aggregate. We told you this was so finely balanced, and it's proving to be the case. I don't think Atleti have surprised us with the start they've made, because they are, as Kevin says, so strong at home. They will not want to rue this sort of dominance that they've had and leave anything out there, because they will want to get that goal to level things up on aggregate.
I think Simone Inzaghi will want the quality of the passing to be a bit better. I think that's the one thing you'd say about Inter so far. Been a little bit sloppy in possession, and part of that's been forced by Atletico and the ferocity of their press, but also just when they've been in build-up, they've not quite had that crispness that they often have.
Well, Molina down the right-hand side, just over halfway, on towards Griezmann, and they'll again try to advance. Happy though to come back and play it back towards Witsel, the centre of the 3 defenders. Forward now by Hermoso, taken by Morata. Now Rodrigo de Paul, little slip in towards Llorente, and he tries to roll it in there, but it doesn't quite come off. And it's very well spotted, very well cleared and brought away. And Di Marco now down the left-hand side. He's got Thuram in the middle. There's his delivery. What a block by Witsel. Needed to be. Otherwise, Thuram has a clear shot at goal. Maybe Di Marco could have kept it a little longer. But even then, it's a wonderful block by Witsel, who positioned himself beautifully to prevent that cross finding its target. Now it's Lino at the other end. It's a lovely ball in towards Morata, very well seen by Stefan de Vrij, and it's Martinez who has his pocket picked beautifully by Samuel Lino, coming in off that flank, and now finds himself over on the right hand side of the field. Played by Rodrigo de Paul to Samuel Lino. Corner of the penalty, little chip towards Griezmann, away by De Vrij. It's going to come to Griezmann, who hits a shot on the half turn, gets underneath it, scoops it up and over the crossbar. 22 gone, it's 0-0 here.
Brilliant game. So it's 1-0 still to Inter on aggregate. We had to cut Richard Connolly off earlier because Denzel Dumfries almost scored. But let's go back to Germany now, where Dortmund are leading PSV still by 1-0.
They are, and they're all over PSV. Since the Sancho goal in the 3rd minute, a full Krug effort, side-footed wide first time, and then a double save by PSV's goalkeeper Benitez, first from Brandt, and then Marlon nipping in on the follow-up. The second save was the better one, although he was a little fortuitous, making it with the leg while he was on the ground. Dortmund really all over PSV. Sabitzer finding all kinds of space in the midfield. Luke de Jong has barely touched the ball for the away side. Dortmund 1, PSV 0, 2-1 aggregate midway through the first half.
So Dortmund heading through at the moment, along with Arsenal, Barcelona, Manchester City, Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern and Inter still. But my word, the opening 23 minutes has been open at the Metropolitano. John Bradley.
Well, if it gets any faster than this, we're going to need even better eyes than we have right now, because the game is moving so fast. That's a beautiful little ball by Savic in towards Koke. And now Hermoso up over halfway, left-hand side, right on the touchline. Lino gets his head down, starts to run at Denzel Dumfries, then checks back and finds Rodrigo de Paul. He's the man who can pick a pass to unlock a defence. It's not his best, though, and De Vries was in the way. But they worked so hard to win it back, and here they come again. Griezmann over on that left-hand side towards the corner of the penalty area, just slowing the game down to how he wants to play it, which he's so good at doing. Chip forward by Rodrigo de Paul. That's towards Morata, but one of them horrible balls which is just a little too high, and you don't know whether to jump and try and head it or watch it over your shoulder and try and control it. In the end, Morata could do neither.
Yeah, and he had 2 players on him as well, so even if he could have got there, it would have been quite a tricky one. We had a sign, John, of how Inter are starting to get more comfortable in this game a few moments ago. It's the first real charge from Alessandro Bastoni from left centre-back into the Atleti half. That's what Inter do so well. If you look at their winning goal against Bologna at the weekend, it was one centre-back crossed into another as Jan Bisek scored the winner. And so that just shows you when it's working for Inter, they're able to do that and have that freedom to get players to come forward out of the defensive line.
He turned 24 the other day, did Alessandro Bastoni. Feels like he's been around forever as well, doesn't it? Because he came through at such a prodigious young age. Super talent.
He's really blossomed as well. I mean, he's a real leader at the back there. He's aggressive, his positioning's always good. Really trusts that left foot as well. He is a very modern centre-back in many ways, and he's a perfect fit for this Inter team and how they want to play. We are starting to get Çalhanoğlu on the ball a bit more from Inter's point of view.
That's a ball looking for Dumfries. Well done by Lino to just turn away on the edge of his penalty area and bring the ball away, and he now slides it forward towards Griezmann, who struggles to get the ball in play, and they'll lose possession. And Martinez on towards Mkhitaryan. Now Barella on the right-hand side of midfield, but he's crowded out by 3 Atletico players. And Morata charging forward, is over halfway, needs some help, gets it from Llorente, who heads out towards that touchline on the right-hand side and can't find a pass. And it's got a little deflection on the way through. But they do have those players that love to get forward. Marcos Llorente, I suppose, is the one that you'd most associate with that. Funnily enough, actually, because if you talk about Henrik Mkhitaryan, that's how he made his name, as playing almost as a 10 or playing absolutely as the midfielder to get into the penalty. He's a lot more restrained in this Inter team now, sits a lot deeper and likes to almost dictate things and then pick his runs and pick his time to make those runs into the penalty area. I mean, great career now at the age of 35 now, the Armenian, and still such an important part of this team.
The other thing about him, John, as well, is he's become much more aggressive defensively as well, which was never the case earlier in his career. As you say, he was a technician, he was a flair player, he was very much the creative heart of some teams. At times for Borussia Dortmund, he was absolutely outstanding in those creative roles, but now very much a more rounded midfielder.
I remember him when we first saw him come to light in that Shakhtar Donetsk side, and he was so exciting with the players that he had back there. Luis Adriano, Fernandinho, Jadson and the likes.
Some team,
what a wonderful team they had. And then Jaroslav Rakicki at the heart of the defence. And of course Dario Serna, who now of course leads the club from the top. A wonderful team that was, that Shakhtar Donetsk side. All our yesterday's reminiscences here on Match Day Live. We have a free kick here to Inter. It's 40 metres from goal.
He's going to shoot. Çalhanoğlu's going to have a go, I reckon, here.
He has it in his locker, but I think he's going to go a little short. He's chipped it to the edge. Oh, well, maybe he should have shot. Should have shot. He goes harmlessly through to the goalkeeper. He almost got talked out of it, maybe, by Dimarco.
I think when he lined that up, his idea was to shoot, because that's the Çalhanoğlu pose for charging towards the ball and smashing it. And I think you're right. I think he got talked out of taking that, because he can hit them from that kind of range. He hits the ball beautifully.
He's got plenty of previous, hasn't he, for doing things like that. Can Çalhanoğlu. Here's Rodrigo de Paul. And the ball will come to the left-hand side. I'm also joining the attack again. Left-footed ball into the area. Morata, wonderful header, super save. Sommer flies across his goal. It was textbook, really. Everything you used to see from Morata seemed to do everything right, but Sommer with another really good stop.
Yeah, again, we talked about Mario Hermoso getting into good positions in that half space, that old inside left channel. And when he does that, he's able to whip the ball in with that left foot, and that allows the likes of Morata to really attack it. It's just a little too far out. Sommer reacts very well, takes it very calmly. He doesn't spring across his line. He takes it very calmly with two hands, so there's no kind of rebound. But that was a great cross from Hermoso.
Yeah, a little straight as well from Morata. He would have wanted to put it a little more towards the corner if you wanted to be picky, but he almost had a free header on it, and so often in that position you're used to seeing him find the back of the net. This is a really good run forward to break the lines, but a good challenge to prevent Stefan de Vrij finding the pass for Martinez, and the ball is back with Oblak, who clears away right-footed into the centre circle. Griezmann with a wonderful headed flick out towards the right-hand side, and here they come again with Marcos Llorente. Dimarco closes him down. Now the ball goes back towards Molina. Into midfield now to Griezmann. Centre of the field, out to the left-hand side. Hermoso forward again. Thought about crossing left-footed. Goes inside towards the edge of the box towards Griezmann. His cross is a little too high for Morata. Comes back towards around the penalty spot. Lino was trying to get there, but Pavard gets the ball away. Witsel trying to keep the intensity high. Trying to keep the movement. It's De Paul right-hand side. He shapes up a right-footed ball. Lino coming for what a really good header from Stefan de Vrij to prevent Samuel Lino with a headed chance that he would have had it reached him, but de Vrij with another really important touch. Now that's probably a foul by De Paul. The referee says carry on. Oh, Atleti have the advantage and they have the chance now. It's Lino on the left-hand side, a right-footed curling effort which won't come down for him.
This is what he loves to do, Samuel Lino. He loves to come in off that left-hand side, hit the ball right-footed. He tried that in the first leg, actually. Had a curler that went wide of the target. Wasn't too far away there. With Antoine Griezmann, what we're starting to see, John, is he's starting to really get the rhythm of the game. He was almost playing from memory in the first 20-odd minutes because he hasn't played in a while. And he's really started to settle. He's starting to link up with players. The one thing that maybe Atletico have taken a step back with in the last few minutes that has helped Inter out, that press is no longer as furious as it was. And Inter are starting to play through it, starting to break the line, starting to find gaps. So, you know, you can't press that furiously all the way through. Atletico are going to have to do it in waves. At the moment, Inter are finding it a bit easier to play through the pressure.
A lot of credit, by the way, to Simon Marciniak for a couple of really good decisions there. On our view, from our commentary position, looked as though it could easily have been a foul. He's, of course, much closer to the action, and he saw straight away they weren't fouls and allowed play to go on. Not entirely sure Inter would have been happy to see him tonight, by the way, only because it's the first time they've seen him since the final in Istanbul. He's not taken charge of a game of them since that final against Manchester City, but yeah, one of the very best around, as we know, is the Polish official. Is Rodrigo de Paul on the right-hand side into the penalty area. It's got a little too much on it, and credit to Jan Sommer who prevented it from going behind. Once he'd actually stopped, it looked as though he was going to slide behind and the ball go for a corner, but kept it in really well. And now Inter can advance, and they have the ball once again in midfield as it's played from right to left by Hakan Çalhanoğlu. but it won't stay in play for Dimarco.
Mentioned earlier on that I think one of the most important things for Inter was to try and get Çalhanoğlu on the ball a lot more often, and we just saw he tried that switch fully 40 metres to try and get it out to Dimarco. He has that passing range, and that's where Atleti have to be very, very careful, because if you let him dictate, we talked about Mkhitaryan moving a bit further back as his career's progressed. It's very much been the case with Çalhanoğlu, and he's really relished, I think, that kind of quarterback role in midfield. He certainly has the technical ability to do that.
Well, that's a lovely ball that slid forward on Barella inside the penalty. But Dimarco, chance goal! It's a classic counter-attack from Inter, and last season's finalists have doubled the aggregate lead. They have swept downfield, they've caught Atleti cold, and it's a wonderful slide finish by Federico Dimarco. Oh, it's beautiful in its conception, it's beautiful in its making. It's Atletico Madrid 0, Inter 1.
Well, all season long, the wing-backs have been so important for Inter, and they were last season. And this is beautifully worked. Lautaro Martinez comes short, and then they work it really well to the left. Bastoni releases Barella, and he knows exactly what he wants to do. So he draws the man, Witsel then out of position, and he just jabs it to Dimarco, and he can take it on his supposedly weaker right foot. And what he does is he just shovels it early, and Oblak can't get set. It's a lovely goal, it's a super finish, and it's what Inter are all about. They don't just hurt you with Lautaro Martinez or Marcus Thuram. They can score goals from centre-backs and from wing-backs. They can hurt you in lots of different ways.
How crucial might that goal be? So we've had a goal in each of our matches tonight. Richard Connolly, how have PSV reacted to going behind this evening?
Well, they have reacted belatedly, and they're on the front foot now, on the edge of the box. The effort from Hustil, comfortably saved by Gregor Kobel, but that is the second save the Dortmund keeper has had to make in the last 4 minutes. The previous one was from Johan Bakayoko, cutting in from the right-hand side, hitting a low shot with his left foot. Kobel got down and handled it well. First 25 minutes, Dortmund 7 attempts, 4 on target. PSV nothing to speak of at all, and the goal obviously from Sancho, but since then PSV have got better. Trail 1-0 on the night though, 2-1 overall.
Keep your messages coming in using the hashtag MatchDayLive. Diego Simeone is on the edge of his technical area, trying to orchestrate things. Atleti though need to score 2 goals to force extra time.
Well, they have the ball on the right-hand side here, and it's a left-footed ball across by Molina. Comes to the edge of the penalty, it's slid forward. It's going to cut to Griezmann, who slides the ball home on the turn. The flag has stayed down, and the game is level. And that Inter goal is wiped out within a matter of seconds. The ball ricocheting through to Antoine Griezmann. There will be a VAR review for offside. He was offside when he finished it. There were numerous touches on the way through. At the moment, it's an Atleti goal, and it's Atleti 1, Inter 1 on the night.
So I think Griezmann is fine. Griezmann is fine. What they'll look at is whether Alvaro Morata's offside when the ball is first played in. Griezmann is fine. So he's on. It's a really good reaction, because they try and cut it out. They're not quite able to do it. Pavard is trying to clear, doesn't get enough on it, and then he swivels on his left foot, and it's beyond Sommer in a flash. It's a super finish from Antoine Griezmann. And the thing they will have checked is that initial cross towards Morata. Is he offside when that ball is first played?
Well, it's a huge moment, it's a huge decision, but as Kevin said straight away, there was no doubt whatsoever that Antoine Griezmann was onside and scores his 6th UEFA Champions League goal of the season. Wonderful sweeping finish, turning away to his left-hand side. 2 very clever finishes in a matter of 2 minutes there, and hey, start again, eh?
Yeah, back to
square one, back to where we were.
Exciting fashion. It's been a super game so far, played with real intensity, real quality. Both goals beautifully taken. But that's really got this Atletico crowd going now. But I think what Atletico don't want is they don't want to open up the game too much, because if they do, that plays into the hands of Thuram, plays into the hands of those dangerous wing-backs for Inter. So Atleti have to be really careful of how they approach this. Yes, they've got to be on the front foot to an extent, but you can't make it a shootout because Inter are too good for that.
A ball on the edge of the penalty area, played forward, a double deflection and a great reaction from Antoine Griezmann. The talisman, pass fit before kick-off, scores that huge goal. And here he is again, charging forward, and Llorente will take over. And he is clipped. He's about 30 metres from goal here. It's fairly central. This is a really good area.
Griezmann's starting to really fizz now, because what he's doing is he's picking up pockets of space in between the lines, and Inter are finding it really difficult to track him, and he's pulling players out of position. It's been a really good spell, considering started the game out of rhythm, was struggling to really make much of an impact, had a few loose touches, but in the last quarter of an hour or so, he's really come alive. And the way he took that goal was classic Griezmann. He's always got such balance, he's always got such mastery of his own body. He never seems, you know, to be overly stretching. Brilliant player.
Well, right now he looks the calmest player out there, as everyone rushes around. The free kick taken quickly, headed across by Savic, and the player most alert inside his own penalty area was the Inter captain Martinez, who stayed alert. Another ball played in towards Witsel, and a good header away by Alessandro Bastoni. And then there's a foul, and Inter will just take the chance to take the sting out of the game as Thuram goes down under a challenge by Koke.
It's a lovely idea by Griezmann, because he sees Savic is on the move. The problem is, because there's so much air on the ball to him, he can't generate the venom that he needs. So it's smart, because he's made the run off the back of Pavard, but all he can do really is try and guide it back across goal, because there's no way he's going to be able to score past Sommer from that kind of position.
Most alert player in the penalty area was the captain of Inter, Lisandro Martinez. Ball is on the right-hand side here, and they'll try and play their way downfield. It was Pavard back to De Vries, and up over halfway to Thuram, and Witsel stepping back to win the ball, and then Savic moves it on, and it's Lino on the left-hand side. They've moved the ball around really well, Atletico tonight. They have. There's been a real smoothness about the way they've played through midfield and played through Inter as they try to do so once again. That's really nicely done. Llorente out towards that right-hand touchline, played it into the penalty, nearly comes to Morata. There was a ricochet off Benjamin Pavard, and Inter are able to clear away up towards halfway, and Axel Witsel.
Yeah, it wasn't that great across from Molina, but it turned into one because of the way it bounced, and it made it really awkward for Pavard. And Inter able to clear their lines. But as you say, John, they've progressed the ball really well at times. This is a really strong, well-structured Inter team, but they've been able to break the lines with those clever passes. But they've got to be careful on the counter, because Dumfries is a danger.
Rodrigo de Paul playing the ball inside the penalty area, headed away by Bastoni. And then it's cleared away downfield by Denzel Dumfries. It was a foul by Lisandro Martinez, who was using his body to lean into Stefan Savic.
Mentioned Dumfries specifically because a few moments ago what we saw was Martinez come short, and then Dumfries made an underlapping run beyond him, almost through the centre. And that's what they do sometimes with their wing-backs. They don't stay in the wide areas. What they'll do is they'll arc their run inside, and they're basically another forward. And so you've got Lautaro Martinez dragging a guy out of position, and then Dumfries making the run beyond. Atletico have to be so careful of that.
Well, someone else who's going to have to be careful now is Mario Hermoso, who's just been shown the yellow card for a little tug back in midfield. And he, of course, now will have to keep his nose clean and avoid the wrath of the referee. He wasn't one of the three who started the game who would be at the risk of missing a quarter-final first leg. The players who were on the red card were Lino, Savic and Alvaro Morata. Is the goal scorer for Inter, Federico De Marco, back into the heart of his own half it goes, where it's played back by Hakan Çalhanoğlu to Sommer, and then Çalhanoğlu goes to right back. Sommer looks to wonder where he is, and then it's moved towards Barella. The three centre-halves have actually moved up ahead of the midfielders there. It's not often you see that. Barella and Hakan Çalhanoğlu on the edge of their own area, and then about 30 metres further downfield, you had the three centre-backs in a line.
The post team's a real problem. They really do, because all three of them, Pavard, Bastoni and De Vrij, are so confident in possession. It allows them to play a bit further forward sometimes and combine, and then you can drop some of those midfielders back, and it's just a really confusing thing to play against for opposition players.
Griezmann looking to release Lino. It's going to come to Morata in the centre of the field. Now back it comes, a little chip ball played forward by Rodrigo de Paul, but it's a really good challenge by Henrik Mkhitaryan, emphasising what Kevin was saying a little earlier about that combative nature to his game now as he reaches his latter years. A ball played into the penalty area. Griezmann sliding in and looking to slide the ball home. It's a wonderful block by Benjamin Pavard.
Yeah, recovered really well, because Inter were really on their heels
that
there.
Came out of nothing as well, didn't it?
And it's Griezmann's quick feet. He's able to open up that space. He doesn't quite catch it how he would have wanted to, and Pavard recovers really well, but Atleti have some genuine momentum.
Well, we are in the 43rd minute of the game. It's 1-1 on Matchday Live. It's a corner to Atleti. A left-footed in-swinger delivered to the near post, where it's met well by Thuram. And it comes out towards halfway, where Atleti will start again with Samuel Lino back towards Hermoso, chips it up in towards the edge of the penalty area. Little high for Morata, and smashed away by Mkhitaryan, who hooks it clear downfield. Rodrigo de Paul with a touch to control the ball and lay it off and keep the home side in possession. They've had the possession for much of the half. It's Hermoso again. Goalkeeper is coming. That's a really good take by Sommer.
Yeah, it's excellent from the goalkeeper. He got away with that a little bit, Rodrigo de Paul, because it's a good take to bring it out of the sky, but he nearly played Lautaro Martinez in then, so it was nearly one World Cup winner to another, but luckily he had a teammate to get him out of jail there. But he's played well, actually. He's done really well progressing the ball. You mentioned before kickoff, John, about how he's been so good in terms of key passes to set players up, and he's certainly done that. He's driven forward well from midfield.
Well, here's Dumfries on the right-hand side, and he had a pass on for Martinez. He couldn't quite find him. And it's Koke who will move through midfield. Once again, Atleti able to move forward and advance. Left-hand side the ball is with Griezmann. Now Koke will take over. Again, the red and white striped shirts advancing into the Inter half. A wave of pressure coming towards this Inter goal in the first half. It was Inter who struck first. We're in the final minute of the first 45.
That was really interesting, John. A few moments ago, Griezmann just basically put his foot on the ball to have a chat with Samuel Lino and said, where are you going? Go further down that left-hand side. So calm. I mean, amidst the maelstrom of a Champions League tie like this, and he's able to just calm it down and just have a chat and move pieces around the pitch.
It's almost Messi-esque the way he does that, isn't it? That he plays to his own pace and then explodes into the game. That's a foul by Rodrigo de Paul.
He's such an intelligent player, Griezmann. That's the thing. So much of it is in his head. He's got the picture of everything first, and then the feet follow. He's a lovely player to watch. When he's tough as well.
When he's moving with the ball, he glides, doesn't he? He really does. And this is Stefan de Vrij at the heart of the Inter back three, and they move it to Barella, and then out to the left-hand side to Bastoni. They'll be annoyed at having gone in front to concede so quickly.
Yeah, I think they will, and it was a slightly messy goal from a defensive point of view, so I think they will be. But I think if you'd have said to Simone Inzaghi, you'll get to half-time, you'll have weathered that initial storm and still be level on the night, I think you'd be happy.
A minute of stoppage time, which we are now into, and the ball is played forward towards Denzel Dumfries. He is being crowded out down by that corner flag, and the referee is going to penalise the Dutchman for lying on the ball and potentially just used his hand as well. One way or another, it was an infringement by him.
He's such a force of nature, though, Dumfries. He's always trying to get forward. Really strong player.
Well, that's the end of a dramatic first half. It's everything we expected it to be. Inter with a classic counter-attacking goal by Federico Di Marco, but levelled within a minute by Antoine Griezmann, which means that we are simply where we were when we started at half-time here. It is Atletico Madrid 1, Inter 1.
second half of Atletico against Inter. The European football journalist Kevin Hatchard is alongside John Bradley.
Yes, thanks, Chris. All square then here on the night. 2-1 on aggregate to Inter. Goal by Federico Di Marco cancelled out within, 90 seconds by Antoine Griezmann. In the battle of the big guns, of course, tonight, Griezmann and Lautaro Martinez going toe-to-toe, and Lautaro, of course, with his goals record this season, 26 goals so far. Wonderful return from him, and Griezmann, as we know. I mean, it was critical that he was fit tonight, and his goal, summing that up, but also his creative play and his build-up play and everything he is as part of this. I mean, he's the icon within an iconic team, really, isn't he?
Well, he's that glue that holds the attack together. You know, everything sparks off him, really. His movement, his ingenuity, and we saw with the way he took the goal, he's so clinical in front of goal.
Well, that's Martinez from the centre of the field out to the left-hand side, and Di Marco's left-footed cross. It's over Dumfries. It's going to come to Barella on the corner of the penalty area on the right-hand side. We're 90 seconds inside the second half here, and it's a good challenge by Alvaro Morata. And Alvaro Morata and Antoine Griezmann on the edge of their own penalty area there to help out the defence as the ball is played downfield towards Samuel Lino, and it just shows it's one of those nights where everyone's got to put in a shift for their team.
That's the Cholo way. That is Diego Simeone's football. He demands that everybody's involved in the defensive side of the game. Griezmann's done that brilliantly for Simeone down the years. I think that's one of the reasons Simeone likes him so much, because he knows he's willing to put that effort in there.
Well, it's 1-1. I'll go through the two teams for you in a moment, but first, Griezmann has come deep to gather the ball and find Rodrigo de Paul. Those two seem to have a telepathic understanding in this team. Now, Llorente on the right-hand side, his cross is very, very deep, very, very high, and it's going to come all the way around, and it's going to go for a throw-in. But yes, it went very, very, very long, and a grimace from Marcos Llorente.
Griezmann's really enjoying himself here. Just a few moments ago, he kind of jogged onto the ball, and he's directing operations. He's telling players where to be. And in that way, he's not a ranter and a raver, he never has been, but in that quiet way, he is a leader, absolutely, and he's a player that his teammates look to for guidance.
Let me give you the two teams. It's Jan Oblak in goal for Atletico, back three of Stefan Savic, Axel Witsel and Mario Hermoso. Nahuel Molina and Samuel Lino are the two wing-backs. Marcos Llorente, Koke and Rodrigo de Paul. Three in midfield, and Morata and Antoine Griezmann, the forwards. For Inter, who'll have the advantage. Jan Sommer is the goalkeeper. Benjamin Pavard, Stefan De Vrij and Alessandro Bastoni. The back three, then it's Denzel Dumfries, Nicolo Barello, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, Henrik Mkhitaryan, Fede Di Marco, the goal scorer. And up from Marcus Thuram, who's been really, really lively in this game, alongside Lautaro Martinez, who, as we know, is always lively. And if he's not lively, he's about to come to life. It's the way he plays football. The ball is halfway inside the Atleti half, and it's with Rodrigo de Paul, who has become such a key part of this team now. So much experience that he has now, but he's just grown into a real leader's role in this Atleti team. They'll have the ball in the right full-back area with Molina, then forward towards Morata over halfway. Good challenge on him by Henrik Mkhitaryan, and there's a foul by Morata, who's gone right through Mkhitaryan there. It will be a free kick to Inter.
Again, we've talked about it a lot, John. Mkhitaryan being really aggressive in midfield, wanting to win the ball and being prepared to do that. He knew that Morata was coming in, he accepted that was going to happen, and Morata went into him like a steam train. But he was happy to take that contact because he knew he was going to win the free kick, and it's that toughness that really does permeate all areas of this Inter team. They can play, but they can fight as well.
He's 35 now, he's Henrik Mkhitaryan. And here come Inter again, and Thuram just a little loose in possession this time, not able to keep it. But then it's lost by Atletico, and there's a number of Inter players forward here. It's Çalhanoğlu who was lining up a shot. Really good block by Koke, who's been doing that for years. He did get some help from Griezmann, and now with Rodrigo de Paul, they drive through midfield, and the red and white is flooding forward. Llorente on the right-hand side, up to the edge of the penalty area. He's overhit the cross. It's going to run harmlessly away and out, and once again he grimaces and looks up to the skies.
I think if there's one area Diego Simeone will be a bit disappointed about so far, it'll be the quality of the final ball. They've had a few moments when they've been able to play the ball into the box, haven't quite got it right. Just going to that attack a few moments ago, what a challenge by Griezmann on the edge of the area.
Well, here come Atleti winning the ball very high again in that final third. And they have it on the left-hand side with Mario Hermoso, who's going to go back towards Witsel here. We are still inside the Inter half. On the left-hand side of the field, Samuel Lino, the player who is operating on that left-hand side, has done so well, had the first chance of the game and pulled out a very good save from Sommer. Now there's Savage. Lautaro might have just clipped Koke there. The referee says you've got the ball, you can carry on. And Rodrigo de Paul has it on the right-hand side. Chip forward towards Llorente. Wonderful trick to get away from Di Marco. What a chance for Griezmann, just from the edge of the penalty area. Struck it low, and the goalkeeper once again makes a fine reaction stop. Griezmann thought there might be a little bit of pieces coming off the goalkeeper, but he grasped it at the second attempt, did Sommer.
It's absolutely superb from Llorente to get away from the challenge, and he picks out Griezmann perfectly. There's no midfield runner to go with him, so he's got time, he's got space, and he was angry with himself because he didn't really catch hold of it. Sommer able to make what was a fairly routine save in the end, and by Griezmann's standards didn't really catch that as violently as he would have wanted to. That's really encouraging for Atletico.
That's a really good ball by Di Marco, and Mkhitaryan inside the penalty area trying to help it across, but really good play by Llorente. By the way, Marcos Llorente, couple of overhit crosses, then produces that wonderful trick to create the chance for Griezmann, and now back inside his own penalty area winning the ball. That's mental strength.
Yeah, the work ethic from both teams has been excellent so far. It's been a really intense game. What we hoped for, what we expected. It's going to be very, very tight, this going forward. The danger is if Atletico leave gaps at the other end.
We could be in for a long night here. Here's Lino inside the penalty area, left-hand side towards Griezmann. Little step over, his cross is a little high for Morata, and Di Marco away. It comes to Rodrigo de Paul, who fires hard and low. It's a cross that's aimed into the penalty area, but he doesn't really get the delivery he wanted. One of those that you smash across goal and hope someone will turn in, but he didn't really get the power on it. Now it's delivered by Molina. It's going to come to the edge of the penalty area. Barella very, very calm to bring the ball away. It's wonderful by Nicolo Barella. Now Thuram will try and help it on, but 4 red and white shirts engulfed him, and they have it back. And listen to the roar of the crowd, because the red and white floods downfield once again. It's Griezmann, their talisman, into the box towards Morata. Flag stays down. Morata down by the goal line, crosses right-footed, and it's a really good header by Pavard.
Yeah, I think you were being maybe generous to De Paul there. I think he's going for goal there with that.
No, he wasn't.
He had the space. You're saying it was a cross.
It was one of those that you flash across the penalty area and hope someone gets it. A cross-come shot.
If it goes in, it's a great shot. So I wouldn't know.
That's a ball that's played into the box by Molina, but it won't find Griezmann, and up towards Thuram, and now it's Lautaro again trying to step away from Witsel, who makes a really good early challenge on him, but it will break to Mkhitaryan halfway inside his own half, and then it will go back towards the goalkeeper. Another rip-roaring start to the second half, just as we saw throughout the first half. Tackles flying in, the latest one, a foul, is by Antoine Griezmann. Wow, we'll just take a breath here, Chris.
There's been a major chance in the other game, Richard Connolly.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a great chance, but it was a great hit from Herving Lozano of PSV, the half-time substitute. Real crisp strike from just outside the box, and it struck the outside of Gregor Kobel's right-hand post. So a scare for Dortmund, who still lead from that early first-half goal from Jadon Sancho, 1-0.
Well, then to have the ball on the right-hand side, it's Barella who's really grown into this game, showing real quality on the ball now, as Inter start to move forward with Federico Di Marco on the left-hand side. Plays it forward, looking for Bastoni, making that run from centre-back, joining in with the attack, but Llorente gone all the way back with him and helps out and wins the ball, and they're able to clear away. It's not a great clearance though by Savic, seized upon by Mkhitaryan, whose shot was supposed to come round to the left, and it went away to the right, and it's 3 off the tee and out of bounds.
We spoke in the first half, John, about those centre-backs getting forward, and at the weekend that goal against Bologna, which was one centre-back getting down the inside left channel, crossing to the far post for the other to score. they've just tried to do exactly the same thing. You had Bastoni down the left-hand side, and you had Pavard on the edge of the area. They do take risks, but there's such a fluid side under Inzaghi. It's really difficult to defend because you don't really know what you're going to be up against from one moment to the next. So it demands a huge amount of concentration.
This is the modern world. Centre-backs bombing on as Diego Simeone looks on from his sideline, talking to a manager who I won't mention his name, but he said I said, what was the most intimidating thing about playing Atleti when you played him? He says, it was when Simeone had Mono Burgos behind him. He said it was terrifying.
Yeah, they were quite the parents, yes, to be fair.
Oh, what a duo they were.
Intensity on the bench and intensity on the pitch.
Mono Burgos, yes. He said you'd look over and they'd be like looking over at you or screaming at the pitch, and it was like, yeah, I'm not saying anything back to them.
Wise move.
Yes, here's Bastoni on the ball, left centre back, and plays it back in left-footed towards his goalkeeper Sommer, who plays it straight back out towards the Italian international central defender. And now Barella, lovely ball through midfield. Mkhitaryan has time and space. He's got three in support, tries to find Thuram, back towards Mkhitaryan off the defender. Now looking for Dumfries, and it's beautifully closed down by Lino, and a foul by Dumfries.
He didn't look, Mkhitaryan. Dumfries had made the move towards him, and he played the ball to where he thought he was going to be, and that's why Dumfries was forced into the foul on Samuel Lino. But you talked about intensity of Diego Simeone. He was absolutely furious because he saw that gap before his players did, and he was furiously trying to tell them.
Well, they've given the ball away playing out again. It was Mkhitaryan who seized upon a loose ball, but now there's another gap downfield because it's an opportunity for Llorente to advance. For Atletico, Bastoni holds him up. Griezmann will join up towards Morata on the edge of the penalty. It looks at getting the right-footed shot away, but he was really well marshalled by Benjamin Pavard there, and the ball finds its way back towards Jan Sommer. No one's taking a breath though, because off they go with Barella moving down the right-hand side. Thuram is down that touchline, willing to make that run once again and charge forward. Barella with a back heel, can't win a throw for his side. And now Witsel, and on towards De Paul, who always seems to have time and his energy driving through midfield. Doesn't get the free kick that he wanted. Referee said that he went down too easily. And Barella out to the left-hand side to De Marco. Game just slows down momentarily as Çalhanoğlu just has a little pass around, a little triangle between he and Mkhitaryan and Barella, the three central midfielders, working in unison there to work some space and work the ball to the right-hand side. Pavard helps it on towards Thuram, and Denzel Dumfries joins in. Helped over a little further now, and they come back the other way. Hakan Çalhanoğlu. Left-hand side is De Marco, midway inside the Atletico half. Mkhitaryan takes over. Close control from the Armenian. Çalhanoğlu slides it forward, but it's a really good piece of defending. The run of Thuram seen very early by Axel Witsel, who closed the door and was fouled.
He just holds his ground, Witsel. It was a great piece of defending there.
Hello, Christopher.
Well, it's two thrilling matches tonight, and we can head back to Richard Connolly, who's watching Dortmund against PSV. Another change in personnel with you.
Yeah, Dortmund have made the change. Julian Brandt has gone off. Felix Mecha, who scored a key goal in the group stage against Newcastle, has come on. PSV are dominating possession in this second half, you know. They're playing bravely, playing high up the field, leaving space in behind. Dortmund are going to get chances on the counter. PSV try to push for an equaliser in the game and on the tie. It's still 1-0 Dortmund, 2-1 overall.
And this is Marcos Llorente inside the penalty area to Morata, who seems to catch it on his shin. As it does, it flies harmlessly high and away from goal. Had he just been able to look behind him, he would have seen that Griezmann would have had all the time in the world to tap the ball home. It's a wow finish in the end. Could easily have been 2-1.
I know what Griezmann means, because he is in a good position beyond Morata.
You show me any striker in the world
is pulling out of that, because it bounces up awkwardly at him, but he's already committed. There's no way he's going to be able to leave that and let it go through for Griezmann. I think Morata will be disappointed that the finish wasn't more tidy, but I don't think it's reasonable for Griezmann to expect him to leave it.
The ball got big on Morata as well. I don't think he expected it to kick up like it did off the surface. Here's Rodrigo de Paul forward, looking for Witsel. Very well seen by Lautaro Martinez again. Back inside his own penalty area and working so hard. Now the ball on the left-hand side with Lino. Barella is the defender. Lino cuts inside. Right-footed ball into the box. And it goes harmlessly through to Jan Sommer.
It's one of the things that stopped happening, John. They've stopped getting Samuel Lino in positions where he can start to do that, really run at them, come in on that right foot, send it whizzing in towards goal. Because all you need, really, is just a touch from friend or foe to take it past the goalkeeper. And they haven't really been able to get him in those positions. And part of that is the job that Dumfries and Pavard have done against him. They've been able to lock him down a bit.
Well, Inter have the ball inside their own half. They're midway inside their own half. Stefan de Vrij is the central of the three defenders they use, and Bastoni back towards Jan Sommer, who fires away right-footed over halfway towards Denzel Dumfries. Nicely met by Hermoso. It might come to Barella, who then jumps competitively with Hermoso and wins a throw. He's done ever so well there, Barella. He's been really good tonight, hasn't he?
He is terrific. He plays like a much taller man. He has real intensity about him, and he doesn't accept any of his physical limitations whatsoever. He's got energy, he's got awareness. He does three different midfielders' jobs in one.
Well, he's a centre forward at the moment because he just made a real buccaneering run from midfield, trying to get on the end of a forward ball. It's just a little overhit for him. He goes behind for a goal, which Jan Oblak will take.
The one thing you'd say about him is he probably doesn't score enough goals for a player of his quality, but he is so important to this Inter team.
Just a couple in Serie A this season for the 27-year-old. There's a ball that's played forward. It's going to be a foul, and the free kick will go Inter's way. The referee was very quickly onto it, Simon Marciniak. And an opportunity again for Inter, as Mkhitaryan was caught by Witsel.
Sorry, John, he's been much more of a factor in the second half, Mkhitaryan, on the ball. Against the ball he was in the first half, but since half-time he's had a lot more of the ball, and he's starting to make those line-breaking runs and draw challenges.
Long time ago, those two faced each other in a Champions League game between Zenit St. Petersburg and Shakhtar Donetsk. That's a long time ago. It's Barella on the right-hand side once again, held up by Samuel Lino. Finds Dumfries, and Barella's cross, and Thuram's arriving. Really good header away by Savic. Did ever so well because he had to physically compete for the ball and then win the header as well. It was a wonderful piece of work by the experienced defender. And now a chance for Molina down the right-hand side, driving over halfway, tries to run away from DiMarco, but then runs into the absolute brick wall that is Bastoni, who then goes flying over the top of him, and Inter will bring the ball back. It is breathless, this game. It is a wonderful advert for European football at the very highest calibre it can be. Barella now onto the right hand side where Pavard will have the ball, and into Barella, and now De Vrij, and they'll come again with Hakan Çalhanoğlu. Bastoni moves off down the left-hand side. He's the left winger at the moment, as Hakan Çalhanoğlu just settles back into his quarterback role, forward towards Dumfries and his bright, luminous boots on that far side, and he might break away with the ball here. It's a little unfortunate, just ran out of play.
It's a nice spell this for Inter, though. It's had a good few minutes, and you mentioned that excellent Atletico defending a few moments ago. It was necessitated by the cross of the match from Barella. It was played in with pace, played the perfect shape on it. It was really excellent defending to repel him, but Inter are having a really good few minutes here. Calm in possession and starting to look like a danger, and Simeone looks a bit concerned at the moment because his team aren't quite having the consistent impact in attack that they would like.
Well, they have to score. Remember, they're 2-1 down on aggregate. It's 1-1 on the night. We've played 20 minutes of the second half. We said at the start to strap yourselves in. It could be a long night. Well, it might turn into an even longer night if Atletico can level this tie on aggregate. They have 25 minutes plus stoppage time to do so. At the moment, Inter will feel confident of getting another themselves, but there's a long way to go and a lot of football to be played in this tie, and it might come down to who can find those little alterations, whether it be tactically or substitutions, to affect the outcome of this game, and whether or not then the opposition coach can respond in kind. Here they come again with Rodrigo de Paul, and now Molina trying to step inside De Marco. Back the ball goes to Marcos Llorente, whose powers of recovery in this half have been brilliant. After a couple of bad moments, he has really come to prominence for Atletico with a couple of really good plays that have helped them both defensively and offensively. Witsel now in towards Koke. Now Savic on halfway, right of centre, out to the right-hand touchline. Rodrigo de Paul shapes a big, long, right-footed cross, but he's got it wrong, and he's put too much bend on it, too much height, and it's going to go out for a throw.
Continues the theme we've been talking about, John. We've had a couple of moments just in the last minute of Rodrigo de Paul, who's annoyed with himself because twice now he's got into those positions in the last minute, 90 seconds or so, and the final ball let him down. He's making really good surging runs, taking into players out of the game. They just need to find that composure, find that quality in the final third. That's what's let them down a little bit so far tonight.
Here's De Paul to Griezmann, to Llorente. He's got Molina outside him. Griezmann will come and take over. Shapes on his right foot, then lets the ball roll onto his left foot with a little drop of the shoulder. And out to Mario Hermoso. Now Lino in towards Koke, who's advancing. Thuram's come all the way back to help the defence. So too Lautaro Martinez on the edge of his own penalty area. All hands to the pump for Inter here as Hermoso's cross is charged down by the ubiquitous Barella.
And this is what they do, their defenders a team. This is why they've been so consistent, so effective, because they've got a front two in Thuram and Martinez who are willing to do that work, willing to come back and help out.
He's here, he's there, he's ubiquitous, is Nicolo Barella at the moment in this game. Long throw by Hermoso up towards the near post, flicked on, and Llorente gets the secondary flick, but there's no one on hand arriving that could advance to trouble Sommer, who gets a comfortable take for him. And now we are 3/4 of the way through the evening tonight, and Inter have a counter-attack developing here with Mkhitaryan. His ball to De Marco was a little behind him, which just takes the sting out of the flow of the attack and just slows them down and backs them up to halfway, and they'll advance with Pavard. Now Barella once again covering seemingly every blade of grass in the Metropolitano tonight. Bastoni takes over, left-footed, tall, sleek, slender character, but his ball in towards Lautaro Martinez won't find its target, and it comes all the way through to Jan Oblak. And now a number of changes are being prepared from Atleti, and this is the first swing really from Simeone to see if he can get his side that goal to get back into this game.
You need something. I think Angel Correa is one of the players they're preparing, and that makes sense. Just somebody who can come up with that change of pace.
And someone who can do something a little bit different.
Yes, unusual.
The unexpected.
Yeah, unpredictable. That's what they need, because they've got the quality in attack that just not quite bringing that to bear at the moment. So need to give in to something a little bit more difficult to deal with. But as we've said all the way through, it's that risk reward. They've got to push for the goal that would force extra time potentially, but there is so much threat from Inter on the counter attack.
Well, that change will be made momentarily, but first we have possession, and Atleti have the ball over on that left-hand side with Lino. He drives down that left-hand side, supported by Griezmann, but we'll go back here towards Mario Hermoso, and the ball will be played across towards Stefan Savic here. This is Rodrigo de Paul, faced by a resilient Inter wall of defenders. He was closed down very quickly by Mkhitaryan, and the ball will go all the way back to Oblak. Now Axel Witsel will get the ball and play it out towards Hermoso, infield towards Koke. That's nicely done. They've played through the Inter Milan squeeze on them there, but then when they get forward they give it away, and Mkhitaryan now starts a counter-attack to De Marco. The early cross towards Thuram, arriving was Barella. What a vital header by Hermoso to get the ball away, but he's not completed the clearance. Barella inside, it won't find Dumfries, and now they can clear, and Rodrigo de Paul's been fouled by Hakan Çalhanoğlu, and it's a free kick to the home side.
Again, that all comes from Lautaro Martinez, that work rate to win the ball back and then play it out wide. They are working so hard, Thuram and Martinez, without the ball.
Chris, your hands have been bouncing up and down for about 5 minutes.
Well, I'm trying to get into your game, which is a thrill. I'm also trying to get to Richard Connolly because the chances are coming now for PSV as they look to equalise.
Yeah, PSV really are ramping up the pressure. Do they have the conviction to take one of the chances that they're starting to create? They're certainly getting in good positions down the flanks. Dortmund have had an excellent chance on the counter, though, with their header from Füllkrug that was well saved by Benitez. PSV with a deep cross towards Luke de Jong, who misses at the far post. Dortmund have made a change. Marlon's gone off. Adeyemi has come on. Perfect player, really, when you're playing on the counter in the last 20 minutes. But make no mistake, Dortmund are nervous. PSV need to score in the next 20 minutes. It's still Dortmund 1, PSV 0, 2-1 overall.
Well, we heard from Karim Adeyemi before kick-off. He scored last season at this stage against Chelsea. Can he repeat the trick in 2024? John Bradley and Kevin Hatchard watching Atleti against Inter, and both of tonight's matches incredibly finely poised. The final night of the last 16, and we still don't know who are going to pick up those final two quarter-final berths.
Well, we've had a couple of changes for Atletico. Rodrigo Riquelme has come on for Samuel Lino, and Rodrigo de Paul has made way for Angel Correa, as Kevin was mentioning before. Now a couple of changes as well for Inter, as Matteo Darmian will come on for Denzel Dumfries. That is, shall we say, a more orthodox defensive player for Denzel Dumfries. And then the other change is going to see Francesco Acerbi, the vastly experienced veteran, come on for Alessandro Bastoni.
Yeah, fresh legs in both positions. Acerbi, as you say, rock solid defensively. Darmian can get forwards. He actually put some decent crosses in the first leg. But, yeah, he will be a bit more circumspect than Dumfries. On the other side, Correa coming on for De Paul. That's obviously a much more attacking change. They'll put Correa into that forward line. I think from an Atletico point of view, I was a little surprised to see Samuel Lino come off. He hasn't made much of an impact in the second half, but there's always that potential. But Rodrigo Riquelme can change the fabric of a game. We've seen that before. And again, it's about energy and it's about setting up for this final push. And Riquelme has gone out to that left-hand side, so he's swapped like for like with Samuel Lino, with Correa through the middle. And it's almost a front three.
Well, there's a ball towards Rodrigo Riquelme from Morata, which is a little overhit, and it will go out of play. I remember Riquelme popping up playing for Bournemouth in the Championship in England when he was a very young player, and everyone just go, wow, this boy can play.
Yeah, I mean, my favourite moment for him is when he was given the Man of the Match award earlier in the season, yes. And he genuinely couldn't believe it, and I thought he was going to burst into tears. It was a really lovely moment. He kept saying, for me, are you joking? Are you winding me up? And I went, no, it's your Man of the Match awards. It's terrific to see.
Understated player, overwhelmed by the respect shown to him, but now they need him to produce big time, because they need to score, otherwise their European dreams are over for another year. And you wonder how many more some of these players will have who are entering their mid to late 30s now in this Atletico Madrid side.
We mentioned Riquelme. It's about trying to freshen up that team. Samuel Lino's come through. I think he's been a really good addition to that unit, but you're absolutely right. You know, there are some players who are getting towards the end of their careers, and Atleti will hope that they can regenerate this team, but they still have lots of quality going forward.
Well, at the moment, Inter look confident, they look smooth, and they're very composed on this very slender lead that they have. But Atleti could explode into life in a moment, and here's Llorente in midfield, playing the ball out towards the left-hand side towards Riquelme, who's running at Darmian. He's beaten him, he's up to the edge of the penalty area. He shoots right-footed, it's deflected away and behind for a corner. Real impact there from the substitute.
It's a lovely run, and that's what they've missed. They've missed a change of pace. Talked about Correa providing that as well. Just somebody who can burst into life. It's all been a little bit slow at times from Atletico in the second half, but he really picked up the speed there, and that forced Inter into action.
Wonderful balance from Riquelme as he ran with the ball there. So a corner on the left-hand side, 15 minutes to go. It will be an outswinger towards the penalty spot where it bounces down off Mario Hermoso and will come towards Axel Witsel, who realises that he has to keep the ball in play and keep them moving. And moving they are as the ball is chipped forward now by Molina. Comfortable header away though, and a very good header away as they advance now with Lautaro Martinez. He's got Thuram ahead. Oh, what a ball by Martinez! Thuram fires over from just inside the penalty area with the chance to end it. And the Inter players all look around and look to the heavens because that was the chance for them.
Massive opportunity and all about Lautaro Martinez, because what he does really cleverly is he slows things down and he lets Thuram make that run. There's no point playing it early. Thuram's not going to be able to run onto it, and Thuram's gone for power and he's got it all wrong. It wasn't a composed finish. He's got right underneath it, and Simone Inzaghi, who would fancy as a player,
well,
he
I was
might have
going to
put
say
that one away.
He'd have fancied himself there, wouldn't he?
But you know, Thuram I think has had a great game and he is having a brilliant season. There, it's just a little lack of composure.
And so the opportunity for Inter on the counter-attack. Will they get another, or can Atleti now use that as the impetus to launch a siege on the Inter goal? They have to score one, remember, to take this tie to extra time. I'd be quite happy for another half hour of this, wouldn't you, Kevin? It's been brilliant.
Absolutely. It's been terrific. It's been so intense. It's been a display of two really strong sides who know all what they're about, and I've been really impressed with a lot of what Inter have done as well to resist this Atletico team so far. Home fans are trying to do their bit right now.
Well, here's Hermoso in towards Griezmann. Hermoso gets it back. Riquelme on the left-hand side. Thinks about going on another of those mazy little runs, but finds Griezmann. Now Axel Witsel, more than capable of running forward with the ball from that central defensive position that he's only just recently moved into from that box-to-box buccaneering player that we came to know so well throughout his career. Atleti are taking the time here. They're trying to keep their poise. They're not trying to rush things as the ball by Molina is played forward and bounces back to him. Now in towards Morata, back towards Griezmann, but a good challenge by Barella. And then there's a challenge and a foul by Koke on Thuram.
Thuram's been good. You've talked about it a lot, John, and quite rightly so. Thuram without the ball tonight has been terrific. Obviously with the ball missed the chance, but he's been brilliant.
Heck of a shift.
He certainly has. Major moments in the game between Borussia Dortmund and PSV Eindhoven, Richard Connolly.
Shift of a different kind here. Looked for all the world like Dortmund had just scored a second goal. Nicholas Füllkrug sweeping in a free kick from Marco Reus, who's just come on for the injured Jadon Sancho. But he was offside, the striker, by very little indeed. So the goal does not count. They were all on the centre circle waiting to kick off. But no, it remains 1-0 to Dortmund and a 2-1 overall. Füllkrug's goal ruled out after an offside decision on the VAR, and PSV are still alive with 12 minutes to go.
Semi-automated offside, of course, in this competition, which is why it was so swift and so accurate. Still only 1-0.
Well, there's a header which will be beautifully taken away by Benjamin Pavard, who's won so many of those inside his penalty area tonight. And now Inter will try and bring the ball away. It's Acerbi into midfield to Barella, who's never stopped working and running all night, and he's found DiMarco, and Barella will continue his run. The ball's gone the other way out to that right-hand side now. What can they make of this? It's Matteo Darmian. Lautaro Martinez twisting one way, turning the other. Wonderful little rock of his body to show such a wonderful sense of balance, but there's a good challenge on him to win it back by Rodrigo Riquelme, and a beautiful little stab forward into midfield. Well, here come Atletico looking to level this game. Riquelme, the little man on the corner of the penalty area, faced by three defenders, tries to roll it across the penalty area, but A header which was really well won, and then the ball is brought away, but given away quickly. And Llorente, inside it goes. Griezmann trying to thread it through for Correa. He's still got it though. Tries to chip it up inside the penalty area, but it won't fall to a red and white shirt. We've got 10 minutes to go. Here they come again with Correa, driven across the penalty. Oh, what a chance that is! But the ball wouldn't fall kindly in that position for Memphis Depay, who's only just come on. Here they come again, and pulled back by Correa. They've got a corner. While we were hearing the drama of what happened there, we had Memphis Depay come onto the field. So too Pablo Barrios, and it was Memphis Depay who was very nearly on hand to score there. Here's the ball delivered again, away by Pavard. We'll get Kevin's thoughts in a moment. But Lautaro Martinez has won the ball from Riquelme, and he slides it forward. And this is Barella with 10 minutes to go, the chance to end it, but he fires straight at Oblak.
The ball to Barella isn't quite what he needs. It needs to be a bit further forwards.
He ran out of legs as well, didn't he?
Yeah, there's that as well.
He ran 80 metres.
I think if that pass is just a little bit more accurate, he's in. And the first touch drives him a little wide, and he's done well to get it on target. But that is the danger for Atletico now as they push forward. As you say, they brought on Barrios for Molina. Fresh legs on the right-hand side, and Llorente backing them up on that flank as well now. And Memphis on for Morata.
Well, here is Angel Correa, and he plays it across towards Pablo Barrios. Now Riquelme again, forward looking for the little burst that was made once again by Correa. It's another corner, and we've got 8 minutes to go. For the first time in the game, Barella was unable to sprint back as well after making that 80-metre run forward.
I'm not surprised.
By the way, guess who covered him? Yes, Thuram.
There's been some effort from both teams, physically and emotionally.
Well, here's the corner. It's a left-footed away swinger. It's hammered in towards the near post, but it was really well met by Lautaro Martinez and cleared away up towards Oblak, who's on halfway. It's just about time to start throwing everything they've got at Inter, but Inter just with the ability to win the ball and then counter-attack. It's Barella, his ball to DiMarco is a little behind him, but DiMarco will retreat and will get the ball. They'll slow down calmly through midfield, and again they just settle into possession, and this calmness, this authority that they've shown, this composure of a winning team, a successful team, a team that learn how to win.
That's the key. That's the key. This is a team that's miles clear at the top of Serie A, and it looks like it. They play with that composure. They don't panic. They know that their teammates will back them up. They know they're a threat in attack, but they also know that they're solid defensively. Atletico have really thrown everything at them so far, and they don't look panicked. They don't look spooked. They've done a great job so far, but there is still work to do.
Well, they have had chances to put this game beyond Atletico. Barella, by the way, has gone off, and credit to him, he's put in an incredible shift. Davide Fratesi has come on, as too as Federico Di Marco's made way, and Jan Bisek has come on to replace him. He of the huge flowing locks, and he's a huge character as well. Well, they are getting more and more nervous inside the Metropolitano, because Atletico, who have had to chase this tie from the first leg and chase it even further from going behind, they've put in an incredible shift, but so far Inter will feel they haven't overly troubled them to the extent of, oh, we've got away, we've won there, we've escaped there. They'll feel that they've managed the game well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It hasn't felt like a siege in this second half. There've been moments, of course there have, for Atletico, there were always going to be. However, I think, as we've said, some of the quality of the final ball has meant that Atletico haven't been able to put that pressure on. In terms of a reshuffle, by the way, Pavard's moved to right wing back, which he's played a lot of, and Darmian's come across to left wing back, and Bisek, who is a centre back by trade, has moved in alongside the other two, De Vrij and Acerbi.
Well, here they come once again. Must have been Pavard spent plenty of time out there in his career, hasn't he? It's on by Memphis Depay into the penalty area to Correa, left-hand side of the box, back towards Memphis Depay, slid forward into the box it goes, little pirouette turn, Memphis is there, shoots inside of the post, and bounces away about 30 metres from goal. He's so unfortunate. block it beautifully. The goalkeeper helpless. It hits the inside of the post. It's gone almost straight and hit the inside of the post. Surely the law of physics will say it's got to go in the net. It doesn't. It goes almost across the goal line and out.
Sommer didn't see it. He heard it, but he did not see it. He was left absolutely stranded by the quality of the strike. It actually starts because of the initial ball by Memphis to Koke. He tries to shoot, has it touched away from him, comes straight back to Memphis, who just puts everything he can into that shot, hits it so sweetly, and as you say, rattles the inside of the post with Sommer well beaten.
We said that Inter will feel that they've not got away with one yet. They have now, because that, I mean, how on earth has it not gone in? If it hits the post there, surely it just comes straight back out, or 45 degrees. It ran almost along the line. It was crazy. I mean, it must have been a millimetre away from going in. This is Hermoso. Inside the ball goes. A little ball threaded through. A shot on the turn! And a wonderful goal from Memphis. Denied by the woodwork a moment ago. Not to be denied this time. And Atleti have rescued themselves right at the death. It's Atletico Madrid 2, Inter 1. We're heading for extra time, surely.
Well, Inter can't say they weren't warned. They got away with one a few moments ago. It's a brilliant finish. One touch to control and another to send that ball low and hard into the corner. And he's made a real difference since coming on, Memphis. He's brought an intensity, he's tried things, he's got into dangerous areas. It's a nice piece to play down the left-hand side, and he just gets away from De Vrij. That's the key. Just gets a bit of separation between him and De Vrij. Koke with a good ball. The first touch takes him further away from De Vrij, and that's what allows him to just gun that ball across Sommer and into the far corner. It's a super pass, and it's a lovely piece of centre-forward play. And Atleti may well have forced extra time.
Oh, it's a brilliant goal, it really is. Memphis denied a moment or two ago by the post, but not to be denied this time. A shot on the half turn, back from where the ball was coming. The goalkeeper had no chance whatsoever. And this stadium has come to life now. There are 2.5 minutes to go plus stoppage time. But Inter, who looked composed and calm and heading for the last 8, now face a battle to stay in the competition.
And this is what this level is all about. They have done so much good defensive work. De Vrij just switches off for a half second, and Memphis is away and gets that tiny bit of separation, and then uses it so very well to put that shot into the bottom corner.
Well, there's some tears in the stands and relief more than anything. Here they come again. Here's Rodrigo Riquelme, who is lighting up this stadium since coming on as a substitute. Surely they can't get another and win the game within 90 minutes. It's Correa. Thought about a volley as he flicked the ball up for himself. Goes out towards the left-hand side. Hermoso chips it across goal. It's a little too high. It comes out. The goalkeeper half lost it. It's come out towards Correa again, who lobs the ball up, but Sommer should come and gather as the ball bounces around inside the penalty area and headed up and away by Darmian.
Yeah, Sommer didn't look too comfortable there, not once but twice. He tried to just palm away the initial ball. Correa had the shot that was then flapped away by Sommer, and then Correa just smacked it up in the air, and Sommer came for it, got blocked off.
Listen to the roar, listen to the noise. There's a counter-attack here, though, from Inter, and there's going to be a foul and a yellow card as well, as Fratesi, who's just come on, was caught by Koke.
What drama the Champions League delivers again to Dortmund and Richard Connolly.
PSV are pressing for this equaliser, but we're in the 90th minute. Jordan Taser with a shot, and it whistles past the left-hand post from just outside the penalty box. They are pushing, they are knocking at the door, but not quite yet. 1-0 it remains.
Thuram, ball is flicked inside the penalty area. It's going to come all the way across, but there's a foul inside the penalty area. A little tug of the jersey. We've got 20 seconds of the 90 minutes left.
Just quickly, so it is 2-2 on aggregate here. We're heading for extra time in Madrid. It is Dortmund 1, PSV 0 in Germany. That in the 90th minute would be enough to send Dortmund through to the quarterfinals. But the last night of the last 16 could last a while yet. It's been an absolute thriller.
there was no way they were going down without the ultimate fight, was there? Not Simeone's side, not this Atletico side, but here come into themselves. The ball hammered across the penalty area. Witsel with the header away. Riquelme back in towards Mario Hermoso, who then left-footed plays the ball out towards Koke, who flicks it against Fratesi. And it's out of play for a throw-in. There's 3 minutes of stoppage time. And almost now Koke is saying to his teammates, OK, we'll just slow down and take stock because we put so much in to getting that equaliser.
You have to give Simeone immense credit. If you look at the guys he's brought on, they've made a difference. Riquelme, Memphis, they were both involved in that goal. It was Riquelme who actually started that move down the left-hand side. So they've made a big difference already. Correa's buzzed around dangerously. So they have changed the fabric of the game.
That's a lovely flick by Griezmann. And the header was a good one to get the ball away, and an important one as well by Acerbi. Diego Simeone, I mean, he looks like he's lived every moment of this game tonight. I mean, he does most games, but this more so this evening. The stress is etched on his face. There's a ball that's played there by Koke out towards the left-hand side, and Hermoso on his left foot towards Riquelme, back towards Mario Hermoso, and now Witsel. We are midway through the stoppage time that has been added on by Simon Marciniak. By the way, hardly mentioned the referee tonight. He's been absolutely fantastic, really has. Just emphasising how good he is and why he is regarded as one of the very best in the world. The ball is in the middle of midfield, but Koke has miscued it and will go out of play for a throw-in to Inter on the right-hand side, 5 metres or so inside the Atleti half. There will be another change in a moment, and Tejan Buchanan will be coming on for Inter. Forward downfield, the ball goes from Darmian, and it will run harmlessly out of play. Wow, listen to the noise. This is what it's all about at this level. Amazing drama, amazing theatre. And Atletico Madrid, the biggest scrappers there's been in the Champions League, in a good way, are off again, and they're lucky to win it with the last kick of the game. It's Griezmann, here's the chance. Oh, it's fired over the top by Riquelme. The chance to win it with almost the last kick of the game, and Rodrigo Riquelme puts his hands on his head because they will not get a better chance in any of the game that remains now.
Oh, Johnny has to score. Griezmann's done brilliantly because out of the corner of his eye he sees him, and it's perfectly weighted. He's just got to keep it down, and he gets right underneath it.
Well, here they come again. Surely they're not going to get another chance. It slid forward, looking for Memphis Depay, and what a way that would have been to end it. But what an incredible game of football. But Rodrigo Riquelme looks crestfallen, found brilliantly by Griezmann, firing over the top. But Atletico Madrid, who levelled the game up with 2 minutes of the 90 to go, mean that we'll have another 30. It finishes Atletico Madrid 2, Inter 1. It's 2-2 on aggregate.
30 more minutes and then penalties if needed in Madrid to find out who is going through. The